and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends have chill discussions about Sonics the Hedgehogs to distract themselves from the inevitable passage of the Time Eater. Oh no! He's sucking the life out of our universe and whatnot.
He's sucking all right.
Oh yeah. I am your host today, Game Buddy. The modern version. Yes, I am the modern Game Buddy now.
I'm the classic Chris. I'm Falero. I'm back here, but it means I'm not allowed to talk anymore. Sorry, everyone.
I'm the downloadable spiky polygonal Rock the Jake from Sonic Jam.
And I'm postmodern Cyberlink. It's all so over.
Oh, it is.
Well, I think our intros, this intro is less cryptic than our usuals because you've definitely guessed that we're talking about Sonic Generations from 2011/2024?
That literally is Generations.
That's right.
Wow, time.
We have decided to combine our talks of Sonic Generations to include the re-release, but chopping that re-release in half, so it's like 2/3 and then more of a, but then that's, anyway, we're not talking about Shadow Generations today. We're going to save that for its own episode. But today we are going back to the past to see our future and meet. Okay, we're talking about Sonic Generations, that game that we like. Is that a spoiler? Maybe for me. Anyway,
I still really like it.
I know I said last time that I think this was some tense my favorite Sonic game of all time.
Mm-hmm. I think I have said that in the past before the existence of this show, and we'll see by the end of this discussion if I am ready to reiterate that.
Yeah, I feel like Generations was kind of the gold standard for a little while.
Mm-hmm. I think that's hard to argue. I think that's an objective fact for even the Sonic fandom.
Yeah, it was kind of like when Sonic was on a bit of an upswing from Unleashed, then Colors, and then this, and it was like, yay, Sonic's good again, and this culminated in a sort of way. It was like the big climax of Sonic's return, and, well, we don't think about what came after, but that's fine.
Yeah, we will someday.
All in due time.
Yep. I mean, I want to jump right into it, but I did think it would be interesting to just share just a couple of tidbits about the hype around this game coming out and some little trivia like, hey, did you know one of the E3 trailers uses a My Chemical Romance song?
Oh, yeah. Man, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Sega did that for a little while. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, Bangarang, Sonic Boom. Like, nope. Nah was in one of the trailers for Sonic Generations.
Yeah, I remember the hype around this game, like, leading up was monumental. I remember there had been, like, some leaks or word around it going, like, before the first trailer had dropped, like, I think some, like, rumor mill thing had hinted, the new Sonic game is going to be, you know, all a mix between the modern stuff and the classic stuff. They're bringing back old Genesis Sonic and all that stuff. So
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't totally come out as a surprise. Although, when that stuff first came out, and something we got confirmed much later is that at the time it was called Sonic Anniversary, and we did find like the early logo for that like years later, because it was also supposed to come out on Wii, DS, and PSP, and those versions all got canned.
Yeah. Although we did get a portable version in the form of a 3DS version, which we are talking about today as well. Yeah, it seems super interesting to me going back and researching some of that they had this idea as a Sonic Anniversary title, I think pretty early, because I think a lot of these, rumors and tidbits come from former Sonic social media manager / all around Sonic-y guy, Aaron Weber. Because I think he dropped the tidbit that at one point they considered tapping Jaleel White once again to voice classic Sonic, and I think Jaleel White responded and said he never got a call, but then that might not have made it out of the planning stages. But I mean, I can't say I would have hated it if they would have given it a shot.
Yeah.
Same with, I think at one point, I think we've actually talked about this story before, but they were considering having 3 Sonics, one being Dreamcast era Sonic, representing like the Dreamcast all the way up to like Heroes age, and he would have been voiced by Ryan Drummond. Like, Ryan Drummond says he got pretty far in the audition process, was chosen, and then got a real bad offer from Sega asking him to leave his union, and he had to say
that was back
no.
when they were doing the games non-union,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
only like changed with the as of Frontiers, I believe.
Yep, and I mean, I've already gone through my big rants over that. Only to I will say something that Luke said right before we started recording, that all of the problems that you hate about Sonic games and people to be mad at are the faceless corporate overlords that make all the money decisions. So
Yep.
if you're mad about that, there you go.
Believe it or not, it's not always been Ian Flynn that's the cause of all these problems in Sonic.
I laughed at my the joke we came up with during our Pitch a Christmas special where we said, I look out over the faceless Sega corporate, and as the creative person, I know I'll get all the hate on social media. I was proud of us for that one. Anyway, I do think it was cool that this was, not like I think other games are just slapped together in a couple months, but that they said, no, this is a big Sonic anniversary. Let's do something big and new and weird and have the come on, it's classic Sonic. He's here once again. I remember
That's actually a big deal, actually, because for a lot of us were really hoping he'd be back for Sonic 4 when that first got announced. In fact, I remember the Pikachu sombrero silhouette. Some people were like, that looks a bit like classic Sonic. Is they bringing back classic Sonic's design? No, they weren't, because they're like, no, Sonic has to look a certain way now. And we were like, okay, fine. So when he actually did show up, we were like, what? He's alive again.
Yeah.
I know you've been selling merch of him for a while, but you haven't put him in the game, so all right.
Was it that initial teaser that ended up being, a cinematic in the game of, modern Sonic, he's running around some loop-de-loops, and then the big jump, and oh my god, who's that? Who's that chubby little guy?
It's our boy.
Yep. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm salty that the other CG animations they made for those trailers weren't in the games themselves. But
I hate
I'm
when they do
not
that.
going to say that.
There's they do that a lot. There's some commercials and animation and stuff that I wish was in Frontiers. There's even an ad running right now for Sonic Shadow Generations that is not in the game. But what are you gonna do? That stuff is complicated. Yeah, we're gonna complain. Okay, before we get into the game proper, I want to ask a potentially controversial question. What do we think about this look for classic Sonic? Specifically this design in this game, who would go on to represent classic Sonic for quite a while, I think.
I was too taken aback by the fact that we got him at all to really take time to consider, well, I would have liked if he looked a bit more like the Sonic I remember. And that's not to say he looks bad. He's definitely a lot more based on the Japanese early classic Sonic, like the kind that you would see on like the Harmony magazine covers and the Sonic the Screensaver, where it's very soft, very cute, very round.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit too much. and like deep down in my soul, I know it's a controversial thing to say, but I do really enjoy the Greg Martin classic look of Sonic that we had over here, because for a while that was kind of the Sonic we knew. But he is quite cute. And it's maybe a little bit too cute sometimes, but the design, for what it was at the time, I'm just glad he was there, He may be a bit too squat sometimes, but he's still classic Sonic. I still associate that more with the Sonic I had growing up than I did with Sonic for a long time, to be fair.
Well, I want to jump in here and agree with you on a different level and say I do think he's a little too cute, but only because I think he looks a little bit too much like American Sonic. I think he's
Interesting.
a little rounder because you said Sonic the Screensaver because, okay, and I think this is a modern hindsight because Mania came after this. When I picture classic Sonic in my brain, I see the, ironically, modern incarnation created by Tyson Hess for the animated sequences for Sonic Mania. And if I had to put my finger on it, I would actually say classic Sonic in Generations looks too much like the original sprites from Sonic 1.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know what I mean? Because you're talking about the classic era, and I think this is reflected in the re-release which has a skins for Sonic Jam Classic Sonic. That even by the time like the classic era was quote unquote over, I think a lot of it had shifted to like the skinnier, spikier, like Sonic
CD opening OVA.
Yes,
the pointy boy.
Yeah.
To whereas this classic Sonic is very much this is a Sonic 1 ass Sonic. Like, I think
the color too. Like, I feel like he became a lot more bolder blue in like Sonic 2 onwards, and that's
oh yeah,
you're right.
He has some of that periwinkle going on.
Yeah, you look at some of that, art from the calendars and stuff, and it's a much deeper blue in the same way that Tails is like a much less pale orange.
Yeah, I think I'm more associating with like the expressions and the sort of joyful, whimsical. Sorry, I can't use that word again after that my previous rants. But you know what I mean. The more sort of soft, cartoony, fairy-like Sonic.
So I'll say this. My opinion is I think it's a perfectly fine design. I don't agree with fans that get super up in arms about calling him a
Santiago.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean,
what?
I get it.
Jake is not online enough to know.
I'll need an explanation on that.
It's funny. It's basically someone posts a picture of this classic Sonic design next to a Tyson Hess or a Sonic CD and saying like, "Oh, look, here's the real classic Sonic," and then a bunch of adjectives describing, oh, he's the wind and cool and has attitude. And then this design is like, "Oh, that's Santiago. This is, kicks puppies, swindled my grandma out of her life savings." And I'm like, there it is. Thank you.
He hates you.
Yes.
He can only speak Scandinavian, by the way. I think that's an important
Several
so I think that's a funny comparison if you don't take it seriously, but unfortunately lots of Sonic fans do. So and I want to be clear before I shut up and let other people talk. I totally understand why Sega decided to basically combine like the Sonic 1. I think it's a combination of the American and the Japanese side and making him so he is a little more squat and rounded. But still has that, that classic Sonic feel because they want him to stand out from modern Sonic even more so than he already did.
And he does have like the eyebrows are a bit more sort of like, I suppose there is though Greg Martin sort of like, what do you call, because when you look at the actual classic Sonic like shown here, his eyebrows are, I don't know, it's not even the eyebrows, it's the line between his eyes, even though he doesn't have a line between his eyes. That bit where it meets in the middle, it tends to be a bit more grumpy, I guess is the way to call it in Western Sonic. No, I guess he just doesn't have that as much in the original Japanese design, but they brought that over for classic Generations Sonic, I guess.
Yeah, I think, and again, this is all retroactive. I think the classic Sonic design in this going forward would hit a little bit better for me if, like I said, he can be cute. I like a cute classic Sonic. If he mugged a little bit more with those eyebrows, like he had that, less of a, sometimes a dull surprise expression in this and more of a, like wrinkle those eyebrows, get mad. Classic Sonic looked tough at times. Give me a little bit more give me a little bit more of Sonic 3 Classic Sonic, which is another version of the sprite I really like. So
I think he's fine, honestly. I'm not terribly bothered by him. Like, I would, I would maybe like him to be a, deeper shade of blue, like I mentioned, but other than that, like, it's fine. It's whatever. He's a marketable plushie, and that's okay.
Yeah. And again, I want to keep saying that a lot of this is in hindsight. Like, we are speaking about from 2024 and back in 2011. There was a lot of, like, people have said just like, oh my God, it's a classic Sonic. We haven't had more than a decade to ponder it yet.
Pondering this orb. This little Sonic orb.
I know, his little orb tummy. I do like that tummy. Look at that cute tummy. Little Care Bear tummy.
Aw. I quite like this 3D version of classic Sonic. I think they just got it right when they made it. I can understand people's like wishing that like little bits were different here and there about it, but I think it is, in the very least, I think it's perfectly fine. But I quite like him. I think he's just cute enough, but I think he also just has the right amount of attitude as well. Because there's some times where like he kind of furrows his brow a little bit in the cutscenes and stuff. So I like him.
I mean, he's got to, because he's not allowed to talk. So that's a whole other topic, I think, is his portrayal, which is cute. But I get why they did it at the time, by the way. I think they might as well just pull the, just go right ahead with this one. It's something, classic Sonic does not talk in this, and that was a conscious decision, I'm sure, because lots of people associate the old classic Sonic games with Sonic not speaking. And fair enough. But I don't know if I really think that classic Sonic is incapable of speech,
We were chatting about this right before hitting record, and if I could boil down our discussions, basically, like, again, it was cute in this game. Now the fact that classic Sonic appears not to talk at all, period, seems weird, because he does in the comics. There's lots of classic Sonic comics now, and it's different in Superstars where everyone is in pantomime. They're very much going for the Genesis games on purpose, but I'm ready. I think he can just talk. Like,
yeah, bring him back to the days when he used to say, well, excuse me, princess.
As he's known for.
Classic Tails and Dr. Robotnik, classic Eggman in this game, also talk. Perfectly finely played by their current actors at the time, and I would say yes, just let Roger and Junichi give it a shot and give just a more, I don't know, like higher pitched whatever. I think it would work just fine. Now it's a little odd. Like, classic Sonic not having a voice was never a sacred cow. He talked in the American cartoons, he talked in the OVA, he talked in Sonic CD. So yeah.
Even in, I just think about, and people are like, well, maybe Japanese Sonic. No, Japanese Sonic, he was talking up a storm in Sonic the Popcorn Maker. And Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter. And he was yapping a whole bunch, and it was fine.
And on second thought, if classic Sonic is going to sound like, looks like Dr. Robotnik escaped, then maybe I don't want him to talk.
That should be what happened. He opened his mouth and he talks like that, and Sonic's like, oh, maybe you shouldn't be speaking.
He has a really deep voice.
We've got to find Dr. Robotnik. I'm from Australia.
And we'll have other things to say about the voices in this game as we go along, since there are some interesting developments with the re-release. But all right, are we ready to dive right into the hills themselves?
Yes, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Like, no matter what year version you get of this for the console, I think it's such a good touch, and I think it's such a great way to start that, like, right when you hit start from the menu, you go into a level. You don't have a cutscene, and it's it's exactly like the very first game. You start as classic Sonic in Green Hill, and you have a really lovely, beautiful rendering of Green Hill. And I remember, we could talk about this too, the fact that, like, when this game first came out, they also programmed it and formatted it to be able to work with 3D TVs.
Yeah.
So
I forgot about that.
Remember when that was a thing?
I even thought the 360 version just had a plain, stereoscopic red and blue glasses mode.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't think I ever got to try it, but that's kind of
cool. But man, playing Sonic Generations in 3D, what a novel concept.
Oh, yes. We're going to run through the 3DS version.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. We'll get there.
I also agree that just, hitting start and getting dropped into a classic Green Hill zone, like even before anything goes wrong, like it's just Sonic's just taking a nice victory lap through Green Hill, but he doesn't live there. Sonic canonically has no home. Sorry. Breaking new Sonic lore we've seen on social media. Sonic is a vagabond.
We've been new.
Yeah.
I'm the wind, baby.
I do want to make a quick note. Maybe this is like jumping right off the classic Sonic discussion. I really enjoy this version of Green Hill, but I was having a discussion with a friend of the show from last episode, JezMM, just recently, and I do feel like this version of Green Hill has sort of, it's kind of its own thing in a way, and sometimes I think it's a bit too exaggerated and a bit too over the top and a bit sort of like wonky and chaotic. And don't get me wrong, I think it looks, in its own right, I think it looks pretty cool, but sometimes I think they went a bit too far with the design a little bit. Like maybe they made everything really chunky and blocky and sort of. Yeah. It's really hard to pin down. I still think it looks cool, but I think there was something a bit more serene about the original, like, Mega Drive look of Green Hill. That's just me being a bit of a purist about it, I suppose. But this is a visual spectacle, what you end up with. And I guess it just doesn't 100% feel like the original. And that makes me very upset as that kind of Sonic fan.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is just the fact that it is like much busier in the background and it's a lot more filled out compared to the original, where it's basically just whatever plane you're on and then you can see all the way straight to the like mountains in the distance with some water in between, whereas everything feels a lot more close up and like the background space is much more filled in with other details and stuff, so it does have a different vibe compared to the original, but not necessarily an unwelcome one. It's admittedly kind of become like the standardized Green Hill in recent years because they keep reusing the assets from Generations.
And even the Green Hill from Prime looks like this, I think.
Yeah.
If there was some hindsight or was there some planning from Sega saying like, well, we want to design this and this will be Green Hill going forward because it is such a recognizable part of Sonic. Like, I think I can see a cereal box I have on my shelf that still has assets from Sonic Generations Green Hill. You were saying
if you want a more literal 3D interpretation of the Genesis Green Hill, Sonic Adventure 2 is right there.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Maybe a little too literal at times, but it's fine.
I think you're right on the money. It is a whatchamacallit. It is a more like fanciful update to Green Hill Zone. And I just can't help think that like, just because it's the big three classic zones in here, Chemical Plant, Green Hill, and Sky Sanctuary, those assets keep showing up in other games. And I just wonder, was it just a happy coincidence that Sega were like, no, these assets are really good, or did they set out to like, well, now we have 3D assets for these classic zones? But I don't know.
Maybe trying to future-proof it a bit.
Exactly. That's what I was searching for. But
I do like that it does feel more realized in this version. Like the addition of the caves that has also come to be, even more canonized in later stuff. Like, they brought back the caves in Mania. They brought them back in like some of the comics, I believe. Mm-hmm. Like, I like that it's building out this world so that, it's more than just what you see in the very base level kind of level layouts from the originals.
And I do agree. The problem is, when you mention the word mania, you sort of bring out the fact that when I'm replaying this now, I'm like, oh no, now they know how to do this properly. Because to be fair, even now, I do think that these physics are... feels pretty good. And because this is not a one-to-one recreation of the classic style, because this is in 2.5D. That's an important distinction, because you're not like jumping on a 2D plane. You'll see like you'll see the level like move around a bit as you're going around. You'll see the perspective change. Then that's fine. But when Mania comes along and they've nearly got it down to a science, and you're going back to this, and it's like, oh, the spin dash doesn't work quite properly. Oh, they've assigned it to one button now, so you can just press that. Okay. It's all these little things that, like, right now, when I go back to it now, I'm like, it's not quite right, but it's fine. But at the time, we just come off Sonic 4, so this felt like, oh my god, they finally got it. Oh, it feels right again. So,
revelation.
It's context.
Even back then, though, I thought that, like, you shouldn't have to get the athleticism skill just to handle some of the basic slopes and loop-de-loops. Like, that was a little ridiculous.
It's another, not to pull the curtain back too much, but I mean, playing the shadow part of this game, which we're not talking about today, and then which is mostly based on Frontiers, and then going back to this game doesn't make it, I wouldn't say it's worse, it's different. And it's, I mean, just to pay,
definitely feels a lot more stiff.
Yeah, to pay Sonic Team a compliment, like, it just shows that, like, wow, they have been improving, like, on a pretty consistent scale. Because even to pay, like, hey, Sonic Superstars, not everyone's favorite, absolutely fantastic classic Sonic physics, and in full 3D and a 3D engine.
Yes.
So, yes, I too remember thinking when Generations came out that classic Sonic, it isn't perfect, it is good.
And that is a huge step up from what we got just previously at the time. So,
yes.
Hey. Also, you don't have to jump on springs. I think that's weird. Sorry, it's just a small little thing. But I come up to a spring, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I've just sprung right out. That's not right. I've got to put the effort in. This is some modernification. I'm disgusted. No, I'm not really. But it does feel a bit weird when you're doing classic Sonic and it's not quite right. Yeah. Because I'm a pedant.
Well, no, I feel you on that, because even like on a recent playthrough of Generations as playing as classic Sonic, in the beginning, I forgot that you don't have to jump on it, and I was expecting to just kind of run into it and then like lose momentum, but nope, you go boing.
Yeah, you go boing. Gotta go zoomy.
I think it does lead to a lot of the combo jumps. Sometimes it expects you to do. I think they're real big in. Definitely if you're trying to get certain time achievements in Green Hill, but I think there's a couple of big ones in Sky Sanctuary and Speed Highway to where you have to know exactly where to jump off of as classic Sonic. And I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I'm holding the directional button like down way harder than I feel like, that old Mario Kart turning the controller. Cause I'm like, come on, hit that other enemy. Boing, boing. And I think that's just a side effect of the physics they're going for here.
We're being all this critical of it. We still like this, by the way. At least I know. I'm still like. I'm just being like that because we've got so much context now of how good classic Sonic can be.
Yes, and this is a legacy discussion where we are both trying to remember when this game came out, and we said, "Wow, this is so much better than Sonic 4," and now being able to say, "Hey, this was really good for the time," and I'm glad they've improved it even more now in the future. So,
also the end of the drop dash from Mania. I don't know if I needed it, but it's cool that it's there, I guess. Sorry, I mean in the remastered version, by the way.
Yes.
Which is the version I played prior to this, by the way. Just for convenience sake, I picked up the new version of the original game that everyone's probably replayed by now.
Because it's an equipable skill for classic Sonic, I think I immediately took it off because there's just better skills from the original, like the aforementioned, athleticism where you move a little bit faster, etc. But it's super cute, and I just like the option of using it, especially for classic. I don't think for modern Sonic I ever used the drop dash on purpose. Now it was not killing me. I've seen lots of people saying like the drop dash just kills me. Why can't I turn it off? But never on purpose. It's more because it uses the same sound from Frontiers, which I know is not a voice clip, but it sure sounds like someone going. But yes, I'm always happy to see the drop dash. It's always cute. It makes me point at the screen and go, they did the thing.
Did the thing.
I have actually started using the drop dash with Modern Sonic in speedrun strats, so I lied.
Speaking of doing the thing, by the way, one thing we didn't mention, when we start up the game and when we get to this, we're treated to that lovely, expensive Masato Nakamura soundtrack from Sonic. The original Sonic theme is there, done up all Jun Senoway style, and so's Green Hill. And this is a lovely rendition of Green Hill's music as well. Like it's not just taken straight from the original game. They've like done it over.
Punched up a little, yeah.
Sounds real good.
The soundtrack, the entire soundtrack for this game series, including the 3DS version, is fantastic. Like
one of the best.
A lot of the times when I think about these tunes in my head, these are the versions that pop up, including some fantastic modern remixes of songs that were not that old at the time.
Agreed.
But yeah, just want to say that up front. The music is absolutely great. I love it.
Yeah. If I can jump ahead just by one level, I think my favorite track in the entire game is Act 2 of Chemical Plant because it goes hard. I'm like, especially as a drummer, I love like on the second repeat of the song when the drummer is like just going nuts on the China cymbal like before the song loops again. Oh, it gets me.
even at the very beginning, those I love it.
It was not what I was expecting for a modern version of Chemical Plant, but I really like it. It's June being allowed to cook.
Exactly.
And they gave him the right kitchen and the right equipment to do so.
The right utensils.
I mean, June wasn't on his own this time, as I understand it. He did have some people helping out, like with various other songs, including the classic renditions.
Yeah, June was the lead guy, but it was spread out between, like, the remixes were spread out between, like, 9 or 10 different other composers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sure helps.
I gotta say, my biggest memory of Act 2 of Green Hill, which is where we are introduced to modern Sonic's style, is playing that demo trying to beat my friend's best times.
Yeah.
Don't think I ever did.
Yep.
I think it was Richie who reigned supreme on our friends list as having
That sounds right.
insane time on that demo. But I think Green Hill Act 2 is such a great introduction to how modern Sonic is going to play in this game. And yeah, speaking of really good remixes, I really like this one as well, with the horns and also the driving synths and whatnot.
It just suits this version, because this is a perfectly cromulent little roller coaster of a stage, which is great for like introducing you to the not just hold right, but just push boost button style of, which doesn't make up the whole game, by the way. But this is like a great sort of like.
Yeah.
Hey kids, you ready to go fast? Well, here you go.
It introduces you to the if you want to, and I'm saying this in a positive way, because like a refined version of Unleashed's corridors. It has rails. It has a 2D section. It has lots of the trick platforms, so you can practice doing those. It has some great alternate paths that you don't even think about, with like the smashing through the bridge at the end. And it just does a great job training you for like the rest of this game, which gets more and more complicated with each level.
Yeah, I felt like a friggin' Superman when I like got to the point where I was hitting that rail and then knowing exactly when to jump to hit like the wall jump section to get that shortcut, and I could do that every time.
Yeah, I really think that Green Hill Act 2 is like, it is just so easily replayable, and it's so fun. Like, that level is like legit fun to try to get better at and try to get faster at. And I think I remember getting tips from both Richie and then another Sonic friend of mine on like things you can do in the level to like speed up your time just by like a second here and there, and it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a really solid introduction overall.
You can really break everything if you just keep drifting with the trigger buttons.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Mm-hmm. Giant chopper badnik trying to kill you like the Orca in Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
very cinematic stuff. But
Love hitting that last trick and timing it so you get the cool view of like the Chopper Badnik just missing you and hitting the Sonic Adventure pose.
Yeah.
Hey, especially if you're using the Dreamcast Sonic skin in the re-release. Woohoo!
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Which those look really good. There are a couple of things to be nitpicky about, but I am surprised that first, when they say Dreamcast Sonic, they mean it. That is Sonic
they
Adventure 1. Get that DX shit out of here.
Yes.
He's got his upgrades on. Same with the little Sonic Jam classic Sonic. It's
I love the Sonic Jam skin.
It's adorable.
It's so
I love. Since these levels also introduce the story of this game, the story of this game is perfectly fine. It was in the original version. It is now that there is a big giant monster called the Time Eater that is eating time and that sucks up all Sonic's friends on his birthday that they throw for him. And
At
sucks
his
up
birthday
his
party with a birthday gift.
So you just gonna bring me a birthday gift on my birthday to my birthday party on my birthday with a birthday gift?
Happy birthday?
Yes, it's delicious chili dog that Tails
That actually
made
does
for
look like a
him.
really good chili dog.
I know. I think this was this and Black Knight was where they were like, man, Sonic eats some good looking chili dogs. That is a Costco sized hot dog. Lots of chili and onion and cheese. I think it's really cute. The opening scene with Sonic's birthday. Tails is running, trying to tell everyone to get in position because Sonic the Hedgehog, the fastest thing alive, is right behind him. But yes, very cute. Happy birthday, Sonic. And then everything goes to shit. It's a little scary. I like the Time Eater's design because he's quite scary looking.
Yeah.
it's a weird sort of clockwork monster, which, when you consider what he is, it makes sense.
Yeah, he's kind of a black hole with a face.
Oh yeah, I was playing the remaster recently when a friend of my wife and I came over and we were hanging out before doing something, and I got into one of the boss gates before I got all the keys to open it, and he actually, well, his favorite color is purple, so that already gives him bias, but he really liked the design of all that, and he actually had me like take a picture of it on my phone so I could text it to him because he's like, maybe I'll get that as a tattoo.
Yeah, that would be a cool design. That I also like that very clockwork. It kind of rings a bell in my head of the I forget what it's called, but in Full Metal Alchemist, the gate of fate, that's like God when you do human transmutation, where it's a big white area with like scary eyes and like demon arms and also some clockwork things. It reminds me of that, to where it's it's another plane of existence. I also just like that aesthetic too.
You'd think I'd remember what it was called, but I don't really remember that much from Brotherhood. So,
I just remember the really good part where Ed basically screams at that universe's equivalence of God, saying, "Fuck you, I'm going to get my brother back."
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. It goes hard, as the kids say.
And then the part where Sonic lost his arm and his leg.
Yep, Tails is. Would Tails be in the T-Pup robot now?
He'd be in the tornado.
Oh no!
He'd be in the Tails doll.
Oh no! See, all of these would work. Now I really lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, it's story of the game. Yeah, so
it's fine. It may have been during I can't bring myself to say it. The meta era of Sonic, the true downfall of Sonic's presentation. Anyway,
like, okay, just to elephant in the room, for the re-release, this game's script in English, from what I've heard, the Japanese script is exactly the same, which is super weird. Yeah. To me, that's another like, what are you doing, Sonic Team?
I guess the thought was, if they are going to be re-recording everything anyway, then might as well, touch up where they want.
Yeah, which is also and I mean the Japanese version does have new lines because Sonic has added lines. Like when you rescue a character, modern Sonic no longer just stares at them silently like classic does. He responds to his friends that are talking to him.
That's a good addition that I like.
Yes, I like it too.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird in the original.
Like, is this version of Sonic as he is now would not just stand there and let them talk. We know that Sonic likes to hear the sound of his own voice.
Yes, he likes to banter. Like that is I would say that is a lowercase classic Sonic trait, is that he enjoys his banter. But so the script of this game was, I don't know what you call it, revised, given a punch up.
Revised is a good word.
Yeah, revised by Ian Flynn.
Nowhere near as much as people are making out, by the way. I've seen the cutscenes side by side, and so much of it is left in verbatim as it was. There are just little changes here and there. And of course, all of it's been re-recorded because of, swapping out voice actors and whatnot, and just refreshing it all. You will notice some changes in the animation and whatnot, like, first cutscene, Sonic is no longer holding Amy by the face to keep her away from him.
Oh, yeah.
Now she's holding cupcakes, which makes it just okay.
We could probably, have a whole we could have we need to do that anyway. We will have a second Amy-centric episode to talk about, her character as a whole again. But we can't get into that here, other than me personally, I thought the story in the original release was perfectly fine. It's cute. There are several metatextual jokes that at the time I was like, I know what they mean. And this new version is was asked, Sega asked Ian to go over this and probably specifically told him, and this is my assumption, we want to change a few of these lines so they're more in line with the Sonic lore we have now going forward. So when Tails, Sonic mentions Green Hill, it's looking, it doesn't look how I remembered. Tails says something like, oh, not to me, because I wasn't in Sonic 1. But in...
Yeah.
Or it was even more vague than that. Like, Sonic was like, is it me, or does that place look awfully familiar, as if it's like, Sonic, you should know Green Hill.
Yeah.
They're being very coy about it, and that's just the nature of the writers. They like having a little jokey joke about this sort of thing.
It works fine back in that context, because it's like, okay, we're celebrating the anniversary of this video game character, whereas now Sega's like, no, Sonic is a real person and we have him in other stories. So of course Tails would know where Green Hill Zone is, because even though he wasn't in Sonic 1, he's still been to the place because it's a real location in Sonic's world.
In his world.
And it'd be really weird if he was like, oh man, this doesn't look anything like Brown Hill Zone or I'm used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that was something that always bugged me back in the day, is that like them playing coy like that, it was like, no, you guys shouldn't be acting like you barely remember these places. They are like, you've gone back to them enough and they're firmly ensconced enough in your memory that you shouldn't be, that like you would be able to recognize these on sight. Like, and I'm glad that they changed it. So yeah, they straight up absolutely remember these as soon as they see them.
Yeah, same with little things like I think after Chemical Plant, Tails says something like, this chemical plant and all of its purple water is making me nervous, whereas the new version, he refers to Chemical Plant as a proper noun because it's one location.
Yeah.
Like the chemical plant is a specific Eggman factory zone. It's all just little stuff like that. It's crazy.
Just one little thing, this is jumping ahead a little bit. One little addition, which maybe is a bit much, is when they talk about the fact that they're traveling through time. And in the new version, Sonic says, well, without the time stones? Like, Sonic, you've traveled in time without the time stones before. Come on, mate. You don't... I get... It did feel a little bit like Ian Flame being...
He doesn't remember that.
I know this! Oh, wait, you're right. Shit, you're right. It didn't happen.
See, I saw lots of people online getting their panties in a twist over that, when my answer was, yeah, but all the other times were fucking stupid and didn't make any sense. Like, they're talking about Sonic 06 and Chaos Control, and the same people got mad when in Shadow Dark Beginnings, he needs a space shuttle to get to the Ark because, well, why can't he get just Chaos Control there? You could warp and whatever. It's like, no, because they've never explained that, and then we wouldn't have a thing. We wouldn't have a story, so shut up.
But you know what Sonic should have said, though? It's like, oh, without using the little lampposts that I would run past, and it would go past or future every time I...
Future.
That was want to get really specific.
That was another thing where people are like, oh, actually, you don't time travel with the time stone. It's the things. I'm like, well, that's gameplay. And also, I mean, I would say, if you want to sit down and be a huge nerd about it, why do you think the lampposts on the little planet work and do time? Wouldn't you extrapolate that it might be that the time stones live on there?
If you want me to be
internet arguments, man.
It's true. And by the way, my stance on it, yeah, technically you don't in gameplay you don't time travel with the time stones, but when you get them, everything's good in the good future. So I guess you have to assume that it did some time travel stuff. Yes, why are they called the time stones otherwise?
And also, Sonic Team isn't going to reanimate the cutscene, so whatever explanation you go with has to be 4 words or less.
Yes, I think that's something we didn't
without the very
out.
specific gameplay mechanics in Sonic CD. That's what you should have said.
Like literally, literally, something we didn't mention is the cutscenes are very, like we said, there are some changed animations. The timing is exactly the same. So not only was Ian Flynn as the writer having to, change these very specific lines, also had to keep it with the existing animation because
Sega didn't bother to reanimate much of this.
Not that the lip sync in the original release is good either, but you can tell it's slightly off with some of these.
The people complaining about this would never survive doing anime dubbing.
Yes, exactly. Where you literally have to fucking count your syllables when you're. Oh my god. Anyway, we're complaining about people on the internet as a general term, but yes, just addressing some of the very silly arguments we've seen when it's just not that big of a deal, folks. I'm sorry.
It isn't, but it did give us the new lore, which I take as canon, that Sonic did eat Angel Island.
Yes, jumping ahead.
Sega, come on. I get that maybe they don't want to change it because of the Japanese version, but I don't know. Like, the whole bit is still very good, though.
It is. I think it is quite funny, the animation, because they basically changed. Hey, I'm just going to be blunt. They changed a fat joke about Knuckles calling, if classic Sonic rescues. Yeah, which, hey, I think I've said that in the past. The Sonic franchise has quite a history of fat jokes and fat shaming Dr. Robotnik. And I gotta say, can't say that I'm disappointed that they don't do that anymore because, it's kind of shitty.
We absolutely have to talk about this because it is very funny that Knuckles asks, what happened to the rest of my island? And classic Sonic just sadly looks at his own belly and rubs it. Bet he regrets that one.
Did you eat all my fucking grapes, Sonic?
Carnival Night Zone went down really hard.
Yeah. Yes, that again, you blame any of those inconsistencies on the higher ups who would not pay to have those cutscenes reanimated.
I just want to challenge someone to come up with a joke there or a line there that would work in the context of Knuckles the Echidna talking to Classic Sonic and then Classic Sonic looking sadly at his belly. I dare you. That's actually an active challenge to our listeners. If you can come up with something that works there, good luck.
That has nothing to do with the shape of classic Sonic to compared to modern, because I'm sure that was pitched like, oh, well, can Sonic Knuckle, because I thought another character had you're looking rounder that also got taken out. Maybe that was Amy's line. I love her new line where I think she does say, "Oh, you're looking a little shorter and rounder," and her new line is something like, "I always thought you were cute, but now you look even cuter." And I
That's
think
so weird that she's
adorable.
acknowledging that she thinks Sonic's cute. She can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
she's not
I
allowed to be a
know.
girl anymore. Sorry. No, I think what's actually the thing... I think I've worked out, actually, how we fix this Knuckles line. What Knuckles should be like is like, "Hey, Sonic, you notice how I have the crescent moon on my chest, and you have the shape of the sun on your belly, and that represents the fact that you are the sun and I am the moon, and that is actually canon towards our personalities." That was a thing that people brought up a while back, which is... funny
And also
to me.
also the wind.
And also the wind.
It's always there.
Always there.
I mean, we talked about how good the music in Chemical Plant is. I also think the levels are a lot of fun too. Both, I think, are a good step up from Green Hill Zone for both classic and modern. And that, okay, you've got a couple more traps, a lot more badniks.
And a lot of interesting set pieces too.
The fact that the very beginning, and Speed Highway does this too for modern, the very beginning has two branching paths that are, I mean, a little confusing, but feel really satisfying when you get the shortcuts for modern Sonic. I just really like it. Like you said, really cool set pieces.
Yeah. And I love how you get to the last bit of modern Sonic stage and everything is just exploding everywhere. The whole plant is on fire. It's such a good touch.
Eco-terrorism! Woo. That's my
it's
Sonic.
It's like they're bringing that one piece of old Sonic 2 art to life.
Oh my god,
yeah.
the Oil Ocean one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. The Chemical Plant is more or less Chemical Plant, how I remember it, except for maybe they do make it look like it's in a red hellscape in the sky, less of a big cityscape, but it's still really cool having it back. The Act 1 feels like classic Chemical Plant. Nowhere near as stressful as I remember the original game.
Yes.
But it's a fun little water level. It's maybe a bit more tolerable for new gamers, I think.
I think a good, we were talking about, the classic Sonic physics being good, but not perfect yet. They make that big slope feel really nice and kind of feels close enough to the Sonic 2 one to where I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it.
It's all rather good, actually. Chemical Plant's good.
Yeah.
Good, great music, as we remember. The Act 2 one has more platforming than I remember it having, but it's great, isn't it?
I think Act 2 has the first diving section, which they had those in Unleashed as well, right?
They did, yes.
Yes, okay. I think it feels really good in this one. I used to really not like these, but now revisiting them, I find they control better than I remembered. Maybe I was remembering another 3D title with these. They just feel really good to just never let go of that trigger going faster. Like, oh yeah, going through those. Oh, I got that red ring. Yep, now I don't have to do it again to get that one. But now especially revisiting, I'm really appreciating how the levels are really good at teaching you. You're stacking skills that you are going to use on new levels, which is it's just good game design. But speaking of the island that was eaten, Sky Sanctuary. Speaking of we talked about assets that keep showing up in other games in a welcome, like Sky Sanctuary looks really good.
When I first saw it come back, I was like, this is one of the ones that I was really looking forward to coming back, because it holds like a strong place in my heart. Like the whole level, the whole presentation, the Death Egg rising up, being up in the sky. And this is more of an actual level than a set piece than the actual game, or the actual original level felt like, but it's good.
Yeah, I think they do a great, especially in Act 1 for Classic Sonic, they do a great job of throwing some other Sonic 3 and Knuckles elements in there. Like, you get not quite the big spinny drill platforms from Marble Garden, but Sky Sanctuary's version of those. And I feel like it builds a lot on the original level, and a lot of it feels... I would have to have someone show me 1-to-1. Like, it feels like they built out a ton of the Act 1 into its own level than just the, like, you know, the very cool but very short one act in the original game.
Yeah, just missing Mecha Sonic, but I get why he's not here.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not quite as yellow.
Yeah. But they, I think they nail in both acts that last bit that is the corkscrew up to the Death Egg. And hey, I did notice. I remember in the original version a few times not being able to run fast enough, whether that was a glitch or intentional. But hasn't happened to me in the re-release, so good on that, because that's supposed to feel really good, and I think it does in these. And yeah, Act 2 is also really good. I feel like there's a lot more places to fall, a lot more bottomless pits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The first two levels have those, but this is the first one that is like, no, this is you got to be on your toes. You got to hit those homing attacks and boosts, which you got to remember. Again, this might have been my problem because I was switching between Shadow and Sonic. That there is no double jump in Sonic Generations, and there is no free homing attack after being launched from certain things. You need to like boost forward if you want to make certain platforms, but it feels really good once you start to get the hang of it. I'll say that it is the game again training you. It's not it's not quote unquote bad design, bad controls.
It definitely takes some practice. Like I found that I had trouble like getting to some of the higher routes because I was, trying to homing attack off of, certain egg robos, and they will fire at me as I'm using my homing attack, and I'll get thrown back and won't be able to
that one bastard above the fountain will
that's the one. That's the one.
Will hit you with that rocket every time if you just have to time it perfectly, or it's just like, nope, here's my rocket right in your stupid hedgehog face.
I definitely struggled a bit with this one, like replaying it now. Maybe I do feel like I'm still kind of rusty with my boost Sonic, and I feel that's going to be a problem for me at the moment. And sometimes switching paths in like the roller coaster like sections can lead me to just flying off the stage, and that's fine. I won't say this is exactly where the game started falling apart for me, even though everything is falling apart literally. But it was definitely. I suppose it makes sense that this is kind of like the last stage of the classic era in the game, because it's a real challenge once you get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a like sort of similar but also inverse kind of situation where it's like, once I got the hang of it, like I said, this is one of my favorite Sonic games. I've replayed it countless times. So like, the thing that was holding me back initially was being like, oh, right, I still have to get all of these collectibles, all of the, red rings, and now the lost chow that are hidden on all the levels. So that's affecting, how I play the game. I'm seeing routes that I completely forgot were there because I would always take the fastest ones because I've replayed these stages God knows how many times. But like, once I didn't have to worry about those and I was just, playing again with few exceptions, I was amazed at how much memory of all of these stages was just like came right back to me. The moment it starts, I'm like locked in.
Yeah.
I think it took me until the next main level to get into that same flow. Specifically, the on a building sections where you hit the the bumpers to quick step left and right, and I was like, oh man, my fingers remember these. It is flow mode activate. But before that next main stage, first I want to say, Jake, do you have any opinions on Sky Sanctuary? So I'm not talking over you constantly.
It's all good. I gotta think about it. I enjoy Sky Sanctuary overall. It's I think I'm kind of there with Chris in that like it doesn't feel quite as like tightly constructed as the first two levels do, but it's still fun for me to play. There's little bits in each act that I really enjoy. Like I enjoy the fact that like in Act 1 there's a couple spots where once I hold down like the spin dash button and let go and then jump at just the right time, like without even thinking about it, it's really just luck, honestly, where I like do that and then like I hit a few enemies and do like a nice chain bounce and then like get to where I need to go like in a snap. And then when it comes to Act 2, I really enjoy like the vertical scale of like going inside the building and going down the spiraling ramp and going on the zip lines and stuff like that. There's really good like key moments in the 2 acts of that level that I really enjoy.
Especially the Act 2 design really makes me appreciate what would go, again in the future. But the Sonic Frontiers prologue short with Knuckles, it makes Sky Sanctuary feel like a real, like we were talking about how Green Hill got expanded into like a place where you think like creatures could live, like you could make a house in like those caves. Sky Sanctuary in this design and going forward feels like a real place that like might have once held, more secrets of the Master Emerald or the island, but it feels like a real place and not a just like a stopgap.
I was gonna say that one shortcut where you have to jump from the moving zip line to the other zip line.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking if I needed to bring that up, because I would say that one is straight up busted. I don't think it works properly.
I had so much trouble with that back in the day, and then I like practiced day in, day out until I could master it. And then I jump back into the remaster and hit it every time.
Nice. Okay, that's encouraging that it is a skill issue for me and not like the homing attack target is too small.
I mean, it's also real finicky.
Yeah, because
just because you learned how to do it doesn't mean it's good design.
Exactly.
Just learning to compensate.
I like it in concept, but you got to be real precise with it to make it work.
Yeah, thank you for bringing me back down, Falero, because that is. I have to watch like some of the it reminds me of like some of the Sonic games when they come out, me saying like, oh, I think I'm having a pretty good time, and realizing like I learned to play it doesn't mean it was 100% enjoyable.
Yeah. It's just how it is.
I have to remember that for certain titles because it's a land of contrast. Everybody.
That's us with remember Sonic Adventure. We all go back on it and saying, yeah, we love this. We've learned how to play this. Boomba gets on it. Oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing. And you know what? Yeah, fair. You haven't played it a million times like us.
See here, I have that same perspective now because recall that a couple of years ago I made Derek play through this for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
so I have the insight into somebody getting that first experience, and we'll get there when we get there, but there's definitely some sticking points.
Like with you talking about making Derek play it for the first time, I'm remembering I still have the Let's Play series on my channel of when my friend Ben and I played it, and it was his first time, and like just bringing back really good memories of like his first time playing it and really enjoying it. And
yeah,
I'm gonna go back and watch that now.
Sorry, just like going back to, I didn't mention this on the podcast, but yeah, I'm thinking back to when I first got this in 2011, everyone, 13 years ago as of recording. And it's a lovely experience thinking back to when I first got that. And I got the collector's edition back when I had money and things were affordable. And I got a picture of me holding a big old box with both of Sonic's faces on it and all the little things that came with it, including the little modern and classic Sonic figures and the little ring. In fact, we got the ring in front of our telly because it came with like a limited edition, one of God knows how many rings that they gave out.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
That's super cool. I do like that art on that box of them doing like the Rocky IV, Alien versus Predator, etc.,
Mad dogging each other.
Yep. I hate to. I know we're about an hour in, and I think we'll go faster on these other levels because this was a big setup. I do.
Go fast.
Darn you. I do want to ask. Okay, aside from Mushroom Hill, which is in the 3DS version, and keeping in mind all of the weirdness we know of Sega and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, is there another zone that you would sacrifice Sky Sanctuary for that you would rather have? Realistically,
question.
because it's easy to say like, yeah, put ice cap in there. Fucking, we need a snow zone, which I think is arguable. But realistically, like now in hindsight, would you sacrifice Sky Sanctuary to have a different representation from Sonic 3 and Knuckles?
This is difficult because while my brain's like, ooh, Hydra City, I like that level, but I know why they chose Sky Sanctuary, aside from the fact that they were avoiding Sonic 3 like the plague at the time, for the most part. I think part of the reason they chose Sky Sanctuary is because it feels so final, like before you get to the big boss. And plus, the Death Egg's right there, and the Death Egg will feature quite prominently in the boss coming after, so it kind of makes sense in a way. But, man, I do feel like Sonic 3 deserves a bit more love, because it did get glossed over for many reasons here.
Flying battery, maybe?
Ooh, battery would be cool. I think I've got a good idea for Sonic 3. Like, keep Sky Sanctuary, but add like just a short section of you're gonna have to forgive me. I think it's called Hidden Launch Zone.
Hidden Palace.
Maybe Hidden Palace. I'm thinking of
Launch Base.
Yeah, Launch Base where
Launch Base could work as well, except for the music.
I'm trying to think of the one where you're underground and you actually see like the Death Egg.
Lava Reef.
Yes.
Yeah, but like,
Reef,
Act 2 of Lava Reef, where you get to see it, and then like maybe you get like shot up into the sky, and then you're in Sky Sanctuary proper. Like, just like have a little prologue going into it, kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Like a 30-second.
At this point, you're just giving me like, oh, let's just put all of Sonic 3 and Knuckles in there because I think it's all really great. But yeah, I get what you mean.
I think that works, Jake, because just keeping in mind, like, again, looking into the future, that Sonic Mania does Lava Reef and a little bit of Hidden Palace in there. And I think that could have worked at the time. I really like that. I like I love your reasoning there, Falero. It works thematically as well as being a zone from a game that they're have tentative fingers to revisit. I like that. I didn't think I had one. I won't say no, put ice cap in there. I do think there is a lack of winter zones in Generations, both versions, if I'm remembering correctly. But
I mean, the game's kind of heavy on, in particular, like the grass zone and the city zones.
And water. There's a lot of water too.
Yeah.
But I don't think as far as like ice zones go, I wouldn't sacrifice another level. Like I wouldn't swap out Rooftop Run for whatever it's called in Unleashed. Sorry.
Cool Edge, something like that.
Yes, that's it. But before we jump to the next level, which we have hinted at, we've got a pair of bosses, because this game has...
Oh, no, you don't! You've got to do challenge acts as well, because we're bloating this motherfucker like an Unleashed. Not quite as bad, but
I actually, like Luke was saying, I think this game is best to you just play through the main story without worrying about S ranks or doing all the challenges. And then I actually really like most of these challenges as a post game thing, because there are a couple that I'm not hot on, like the ghost challenges where you're just running the level again, trying to beat a ghost of a good sometimes it's not a good time, but the ghost can beat you. I like the ones that are a little shorter, that is just its own unique thing, and with the other characters I think that's cute when they
I like that every character has one mission where you work together with them and then one where you compete against them. It's a nice touch.
Yep. And some of them are, some are better than others. I think it was, hey, speaking of Donnie, I think it was Donnie mentioned he wasn't looking forward to doing the Vector rally with the musical notes.
Yeah, I just tried doing that the other day. I was like, no, I'm choosing a different one.
I guess I forgot. It's pretty forgiving as far as that thing can hit the ground and not disqualify you. It's all about your time. And I still thought it was pretty. And I mean, it's funny.
There were a lot of times where my homing attack just went through that thing.
Yes. Didn't hit. But it is funny. Vector is belching this giant musical note, which I think is just the same model for the, ringing the little bells. But Yes, the challenges, some of them can be pretty busted. There were a few that were frustrating, but again, I'm the kind of guy who needs to get the S rank, so if you're not that person, hey, just skip it. If it sucks, hit the bricks. You can leave.
Yeah, you actually have the choice to pick which ones you do, not instead of having to do all of them to proceed.
I think you only have to do one in each area to unlock the boss key. And so you have to do 3 missions from the 3 levels, 3 missions, one for each level you just beat. And you can do either a classic or a modern mission. You don't have to do, So yeah, pretty generous to unlock the proper boss. And then there is I guess, would you call it a mini boss, a side boss?
I think they call them rival battles, right?
Oh,
Something
yeah.
like that.
To collect the Chaos Emeralds. And our first rival battle is classic Metal Sonic.
He's a little guy.
I know. I take back what I said about classic Sonic being too round, because it gives us this round little Metal Sonic. And he's so cute.
And it gives us an excuse to get us something from Sonic CD here.
Yes. Yeah.
So Stardust Speedway Bad Future.
I feel like, I guess maybe by the time this came out, had we gotten the Taxman port of Sonic CD?
Yes.
Okay, but so they were in the process of like, hey, Sonic CD, that is a classic Sonic game.
Actually, wait, I'm trying to remember. It was the same year. I think that, I can't remember if it came out just before or just after Generations. I think just before. I could be wrong on that.
That's another one in hindsight to where I feel like if this game was made a few years later, that we would have gotten a Sonic CD level in there, because Sega's definitely like, nope, this is right up there with Sonic 1 as being a classic Sonic game now. And
yeah, but they seemed pretty, gung-ho about three zones per era, so it's like,
yes.
If they did that, they probably would have had to add, two more zones for the other eras, and they wouldn't have had enough time for that. And I wouldn't really be interested in a Shadow the Hedgehog level and a Sonic 4 level.
No, sorry, I'm just having a quick look. I think it was December that year that we got the Sonic CD. I believe.
Yeah, so I remember it being close.
Anyway. So yeah, the Americans weren't quite used to the wares just in Stardust Speedway. But hey, don't worry. Once you've beaten it, I'm pretty sure it's possible to change that to the American one if you like, because that's a whole new remix too.
Yeah, they did a remix of the American boss theme too that you could unlock, and that was great.
It's really good. I think. I don't remember. Do they have a version of You Can Do Anything in this?
No.
No. Yeah, that's the weird one. I bet that was because the classic port came out, had a lyricless version of that. I wonder if they were having trouble with that even when they were doing Generations.
Maybe.
It was close enough that I'm sure that was, an issue.
I'm glad that's been resolved these days, by the way, because I love those vocals. In Origins, they are back.
I know in our music discussion, I really came around on them, because I used to be a little put off, and now I'm like, nah, it's all intentional. It's supposed to be there.
Heads up, Jake, it's back.
Leather and lace.
Where?
Yep, I really like this little boss. This is a really good opportunity to make classic Sonic look cool and tough, because he roundhouse kicks Metal Sonic to death.
And that's something interesting. Yeah, you're actually attacking Metal Sonic in a weird way, indirectly, but in the original game, you were just like, no, you have to outrun him, and then he'll crash himself into a wall. No, this time you're beating his ass, kind of.
Yeah, I got my time down to just under a minute, I believe, because I was able to find the exact earliest openings I could, where it's like you can just during that second attack, you can just barely hit him as he's charging up his move. So it's like, if you're very precise, you can hit him at points where he's supposed to not be hittable and get your time down. So that was one of the ones that I really got good at.
Yeah, I love that there is cycle skips I think just about all these bosses. Because just the other day, I'm pretty sure I skipped a cycle in Egg Dragoon, and I was like, oh, whoa, cool.
Yeah, imagine being able to do that in some Sonic games.
Oh boy. Very, very good little rival battle. A good introduction to the concept. And then you get your first proper big boy boss battle, and it's that dang old Death Egg robot from Sonic 2. This is you get the cute little mirror world cutscene where, yeah, I know it's not, but it sure does look like the mirror hall from Twinkle Park in Sonic Adventure.
A little bit. I love that there are two different versions of that play depending on which Sonic you go into the door with.
Yeah. With, again, slightly altered dialogue in the new release. But classic Sonic makes it through the boss gate before modern Sonic gets shut out, smashes his face on the door, so he gets to fight his old rival, Dr. Robotnik.
Nobody calls him that anymore.
That is patently untrue. That's the thing. This is, as far as we know, this is just Eggman. If you're playing the original game, and it's the Death Egg robot, and that also is a bit of a tubby boy. Actually, they've definitely widened him out a little bit compared to the original Sonic 2 version.
They use the Photoshop sphere tool on him.
Yeah.
He is a big egg.
I think this might be, okay, aside from the final boss, which it is what it is, I think this might be my least favorite, but it's more of it's at the bottom of my top rankings, if that makes sense.
I absolutely do agree.
I think it's okay. I mean, I absolutely would not want just the original format of the boss battle with no rings but I just think the changes, it's a little loosey-goosey as far as when it works and when it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
it
just
kind
very
of feels
finicky.
Like a joke now. That's the thing, like, I do agree that they shouldn't be busting out the original Sonic 2 version of this, because that was unfair. But also, this is like, feels like it's over a minute for me. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's a very short battle.
Considering, like, how good the music is in the original and in this, and the fact that it has two different modes, like when he's finally done with the elevator bit and he's done flailing around like a big fat robot, there's this whole like bit where the music like rises in scale and tempo, and it sounds really cool, and then it's over like in minutes, I think. So I don't know. It's fine though. I guess that they just wanted to not scare everyone off.
Yeah, I think the boss, like, aesthetically looks cool, and I like the level design, but at the same time, it just feels so tricky trying to like line up where the bombs are and where to get him to punch and like get to a proper platform where you can actually jump on the arm and like hit him in the head. And like, again, aesthetically it all looks cool. I definitely not my favorite boss in the game just because of the platform. I think really it just comes down to the platforms. Like, I feel like they're not particularly well placed. I feel like it could have been planned out a little bit better on that one.
They could have just like not gotten all silly with it and just gave you a more basic version of the original one where you're just attacking him instead of doing this elaborate, you've got to hit a switch, and then the switch makes a bomb appear, and then you need to make him hit the bomb, and then when the bomb hits, you need to be in the right place to jump on his arm and then squiggle up there. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really, like, it's awkward, but, like, again, it only takes a few hits, so it doesn't really matter in the end. So I feel like they maybe just got a little bit, they took it a bit. I guess they were trying to be creative and cinematic with it, and
you know what?
It's fine.
They made that boss for the 3D TVs just to have that depth.
Yeah, you're probably right. That's what it is. Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, I still think it looks cool, sounds cool. It's in space.
It is, in fact, in space.
And then the classic games are over and I stop paying attention. No, it's not true. But it's funny now that everything is basically about modern Sonic, because classic Sonic doesn't go here.
I know, we go from the classic titles to titles that are 25 years old. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. No, I think Speed Highway is super solid.
Oh, yeah.
I think I have a better appreciation for the classic bit this time around. There is a lot going on that I think works really nice. The platforms that drop out from under you, feel more fair than I remember. That there is just a lot of timing and hitting like earlier cycles.
Yeah.
And the modern version is just a ton of fun. You really get to let loose, similar to the original, with alternate paths and getting up on the side of those buildings, and the aforementioned quick stepping between bombs and feeling like the king of the highway, hitting all those. And, yeah, it culminates in, I mean, one of the defining moments of the original Sonic Adventure is that drop down that would lead to the last section in the original game.
It's real good to take, like, let's be honest, the Sonic Adventure does still have its kind of, like, it was still finding its footing with 3D, so it was a bit more loosey-goosey, whereas this is a lot more tighter in the way that you expect from the Boost game, so it's like taking an iconic part of that game, which still had its problems, to taking it to the brand new, like, completely ironed out style of Boost Sonic, and it's pretty good.
Yep, lots and two great remixes of with all those samples that you know and love. The
Duchess.
Up and down and all around,
yes.
Duchess.
Yeah. And I love how much more detail there is to the world as well. Like, the fully furnished hotel lobby, and like walking past the little gym and seeing all the exercise machines inside, and just again, this goes back to what we've been saying all along about how Sonic Generations really takes these existing locations and makes them feel more like a livable world. That's going to go away a little bit once we enter the HD era next, because it's like a lot of those details were already there, but man.
I love that they've still got the stupid little kikis in the cop cars and that exact same siren sound. It's so good. Just homing attack 8 of them at once if you want to.
The only thing which the Act 2 is really missing, and I know I can understand why it's not there, is the third stage. The third
at-dawn section.
Yep.
There's the add-on section, because that was always like the come-down section of the level, which I always really loved about original Speed Highway. But I get what it's not there. It's fine.
And in Act 1, we still get the bell that you can ring, which I really...
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we sure do. Uh-huh. I think that's where one of the hidden Chow are now.
Yep.
In the
Oh, okay.
re-release.
I really like Act 1 of Speed Highway. Like, I love Act 2 with Modern Sonic, but like I think Act 1 is really well put together, and I mean, it's got like a lot of moving parts, especially with like drop-down platforms, but like, I think it was you, Jeremy, who said like, it doesn't feel cheap. It gives you enough time before it drops down. Mm-hmm. It's fun.
They work really well. I think some of the challenges for both of these acts are really fun too.
I think the thing about the Act 1 is this sort of like sets the standard for what going forward of like retooling and retrograding like more modern 3D stages to bring them back to the classic Sonic style. And in a way, they sort of like call back to existing classic Sonic stages to make them work. So sometimes this reminds me a little bit of like Starlight Zone from Sonic 1, because that's a city-style stage. So it's really well put together. I like how they really thought this through. Like, how do we make classic Sonic work with something that is not classic Sonic at all, except for all the speedy bits. So
I like, ever since the game came out, I have always had this thing in the back of my head of like, I wish that there was a way that they could have included like just a couple more classic era stages. But I also really appreciate how creative they got with making classic versions of these like Dreamcast and modern versions or modern stages. And yeah, I think they just did such a great job.
I definitely think it goes without saying that the fact that they didn't do proper DLC levels is still, it's not a mystery to me, because I understand why it didn't happen, because now, I mean, the nature of Sonic Team, they probably didn't have the manpower to start on the next side main game and DLC for this, which, man, speaking of which, you know, I think we've talked about it before, that the Casino Night Pinball I did not get to properly play until the modded PC version that I've dabbled in and the re-release, because they never put it on PS3 for free download. And you can also unlock a not as badly emulated as others, but still emulated version of Sonic 1 in the original release that is not in the re-release for pretty obvious reasons.
Only on 360 PS3. I think it was running on whatever emulator Digital Eclipse, then Backbone, had done for like those PS3 ports of the Genesis games.
I think I thought maybe it was just in my version, because as we know, the PS5 doesn't have any games, so they...
Just wanted to make sure we paid lip service to that. But the speaking of retrofitting modern anyway, City Escape.
Yes.
It's really fun.
Oh, so good.
This feels like, man, these levels are really tight, and I understand why I feel like this is a great showpiece for this game, as far as like, maybe not for someone who's never played it before. I think the Green Hill demo was really good for that. But man, it's just so bright and colorful, and it's very true to the original while updating a lot of the looks. And man, that remix with was this new vocals recorded by Ted
cool.
Ted Poley, right? Yeah. It's just really good, man. It's such both remixes are so happy and bubbly and nostalgic for all the right reasons. I really like this level, both of these levels. I wouldn't say they're my favorites. I gotta say that's coming in a few levels, but these are make me feel the happiest to just like go mess around and get really good times, because there are a lot of really great alternate paths and like quick tricks with both Sonics that you blink and you miss them.
The slap bass intro for Act 2 is it's just going wild on it. I love it, because like we've said before that Sonic music has a really great history of incorporating slap bass, and they just went ham on it, and I love it. Also, skateboarding in Act 1, it's awesome.
I was gonna say, like, giving classic Sonic a new power up in a monitor, of course, and it's a flipping skateboard. Of course, he'd have a skateboard.
Yeah.
He's classic Sonic. He's from the 90s.
Skateboard that would go to appear in Sonic 2, the movie, from Paramount Pictures.
I'm classic Sonic. I like to skateboard.
I know exactly what you're Just for the record, he did not shit his pants.
Classic Sonic pooped his pants.
What an idiot!
Yeah, City Escape is just, me being as nostalgic as I am, it's a perfect implementation of, that zone, and gives me a lot of the same, warm, fuzzy feelings as it did when I played the original way back in the day.
And Act 2, I think, is about as faithful to the original zone as possible, while still expanding it for a modern boost Sonic, but it has enough set pieces where you're like, oh yeah, there's the thingies that go up and down, and the gun robots, and we're going down the building and then up the rail and blah blah blah.
Boarding section goes on a bit longer, especially if you play well, I noticed, and I thought that was quite cool.
Well, that's the thing, is that like, it's arguably better, like, if you want to get a faster time in the board section, you kind of need to avoid doing all the ramps and stuff, because they are comparatively slow. But at the same time, if you do, you miss out on, some of the spectacle of being able to, like, launch off the ramps, land on, the telephone poles, and ride the telephone wires and the rails all over the place. It's super. There's a lot of charm to it, even if it's not, the fastest route.
I like the added verticality that they give right at the beginning with the boarding section, because of like all the cool grinding and stuff.
Yeah.
And now you really feel like you're in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to be said about using modern Sonic's boost and hitting those tricks and flying literally hundreds and hundreds of feet down those hills.
And of course, it goes without saying that the real star of this level is, of course, the truck.
Yes.
That daggum
Boy,
truck.
howdy! We all remember the truck from the original, like, wow, I can't see it ever getting better than this.
And then...
Look what happened! They went balls to the wall. They got so silly. I quite like
rockets
it.
on it.
Each act has its own bespoke evil gun truck, too. I really like it. You have in Act 1, the truck going, you can see it going through the background, and here it comes to the foreground, and you're like
a shark.
Wait, it's not gonna, oh no, it's gonna hit the platforms that I'm on. And again, the format mentioned, like, if you get in the zone and you are jumping, getting a good time, you can beat the truck and make it on that higher path. But otherwise, yeah, you have an entire different path into, like, the I think it's the sewer system in Act 1. It's really nice. But yes, the truck in Act 2 is because you say, well, how could they possibly do this? Is it just going to be a recreation? And man, they threw all of the spaghetti at the wall and most of it stuck. I love it. It's such a good.
I think I know what's going wrong, though. I know what the issue is with the gun truck. I think I know who's driving it.
No, Majima!
There's a bit of a history of not being able to drive a truck properly.
Sonic-chan!
Well, I saw on social media recently, somebody zoomed in on the rocket part of the chase with Mad Truck, and at the top of the truck it says student driver. Is that just a Photoshop or is that real?
Yeah, that's a Photoshop.
That would have been great.
I thought you were going to tell me you could see, like, the gun commander in there or something.
But
Abraham Tower.
But what I was gonna say was, when you get into that, like, kind of lower sewer-ish level in Act 1, you get to see the posters of like Mighty and Ray and I think Bean and Bart
at the time.
Yeah,
I remember us being like, "Oh, they remembered the boys." And,
the boys.
Again, before Mania Plus.
And now there's merchandise for all of them on Toy Star shelves. What a weird time.
I own some. I've got a Mighty plush over here. I cannot believe it. I got a little Fang the Sniper, and I haven't taken. Sorry, Fang the Hunter, I guess now, and I haven't taken him out of his box because he deserves to be imprisoned.
He's sharing a cell with Bumper the Badger.
Yep, these are just really good. The I think with this revisit, I figured out how the giant saw blades work during the last truck, the Act 2 truck run, and it feels really good to sidestep right out of the way as they are trying to split your ass right open. But yes, it feels really good, and then you end up on the the almost completely horizontal run at the end, and the truck activates its own boost gauge to come after you. It just feels really good.
It's coming up on the wall of the building. I'm just like, what are they doing?
what a set piece. But yes, these are so fun. Gives me the warm fuzzies. And yeah, I love how well the skateboard works for classic Sonic. It is not an afterthought.
Yeah,
it feels really good on the rails and the trick ramps. Cool beans.
Well, if they could have give classic Sonic a skateboard in the original games, I'm sure they would have.
Yeah, they're I'm trying to think. I think
he snowboarded once at least.
Yeah, it's snowboards. There's the rocket in Sonic Chaos, and then I think in the fan remake, the Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, there might be a skateboard or snowboard. But yeah, when you really think about it, like, oh yeah, no, snowboarding. That was classic Sonic's thing.
Honestly, I think Seaside Hill might be one of the stronger levels in this game.
I agree, and like you've put in our outline here, there's so many alternate paths, and it's just really solid. Like, I still don't think to this day I've visited every path, and it's just a really good bit of level design that, it is Seaside Hill, but combines, I believe, a lot of from the second part of
Ocean Palace,
too. Yes, Ocean Palace.
Including the music as well on Act 2.
Yeah.
I like the way it transitions between the two.
Like, just being able to run on the water alone makes a huge difference. But I like that there's, like, a risk reward to it too, where you can skip whole sections by running on the water, but it also drains your boost gauge even faster. So it's like
another big improvement on the or I'd say, like we said, we're paying compliments here. It works a lot. I prefer how it works in here than it did in a lot of Unleashed, where the running on water was a big crapshoot. Yeah. This feels like you have much more control, and like you said, the risk reward feels much more satisfying.
Yeah, like right at the start, getting good enough to run on the water, like under the loop without clipping it and falling in, and being able to reach that cannon that lets you skip basically the entire side-scrolling section at the start is just it's so satisfying.
Say, I can't believe they even made the weird kart racing mini game.
Yeah.
It works really nice in this version.
Yeah, and
you
it's
can
like
always-
it's cool that it's like you can do the kart racing section or the turtles, and then the number of opportunities you have to go to one or the other changes based on whether you're on the higher or lower path. And even if you get stuck going on the turtles, there are multiple routes you can take on that route, so you don't have to go the same way every time. It's just like this is a level that has so much opportunity for different pathing, and I love it so much. I'm so appreciative that they went as ham as they did on this one.
This and the next proper level really make me think that Sega can revisit these titles that might not have I won't say the best reputation. People love Sonic Heroes, and that, hey, good for them. Titles that
weren't given the TLC they needed.
Thank you so much. I was really trying to find a way to end it.
Titles
in that
that are
sentence.
just shit. That's what Jeremy was dancing around saying, but no.
Which is not what I said.
No.
But you all get it.
Yeah, we get it. And either way, the lads at Sumo Digital saw this and were like, wait, they've got something here.
This is our new baby. We are taking this under our wing.
I made this.
It is kind of fun that they did make this into this is more of a water level than it was in Sonic Heroes, because Sonic Heroes didn't really have those because of the weird gameplay loop. And especially in Act 1, but we didn't talk about Act 1 that much. It basically feels like a sort of like a Hydra City or Labyrinth, but good in a way.
And that's another one where there's a lot of different paths that you got to be careful to actually hit, because a lot of them you need to be able to hop on specific badniks to get to higher areas and cannons that launch you. And if you miss it the first time, then you're stuck on the low path. So it's really risky if you want to try and go for the faster times there.
This is entirely a me thing, but I guess when I'm playing this with classic Sonic, it kind of reminds me of those Seaside stages that didn't make it into Sonic 2. Because we didn't really get those in the original game, these little beachside levels. Just maybe it was intentional, maybe not, but I like it.
I mean, when we played Sonic Heroes, we were talking about how the vibes of that game are some of the closest that they ever got in 3D to recreating the vibes of classic Sonic.
That's true.
I still agree.
I'll keep it short. I like Act 2 more than I like Act 1. Yeah, fair.
I think I agree. I appreciate the designs of Act 1, and in fact, I wanted to say I'm pretty sure if you do a perfect run, you never touch a drop of water, and I really appreciate that in a Sonic water level. That no man, I'm this good. Let me. It's just because Sonic water levels have that reputation. They could be fun, but it is just satisfying to not fall down in there. But
just like many unhealthy gamers not touching a single drop of water.
I was going to say Sonic will do everything in his power to not take a bath.
Mountain Dew and sponge baths, please. And now we get to our second set of bosses, and this rival battle with Shadow the Hedgehog is now much funnier retroactively because of this re-release. Because again, not talking about Shadow Gens, but when you know the setup for that, and then you go straight into this as released Sonic Generations battle, you're like, you little stinker.
And when I first played this, I wondered is this the Shadow from now, or is this the Shadow from back in Sonic Adventure 2 brought back through the timelines? But now we know it is the Shadow from now, and of course he'd do this because he always wants to fight Sonic.
I wish that they had changed the dialogue in before he fights you for the remaster.
The little text box, yeah.
Exactly.
I think you can say, well, he was just playing into kayfabe, but I do think it would be funnier if they changed it.
It's just harder to work with when we literally see that scene from another perspective in Shadow Generations.
I do really like this rival battle, and in fact, it's just an interesting take where it combines, their final fight in Sonic Adventure 2, and also with more elements of Final Chase and Final Rush, and again, some really great musical cues. I like that, they establish here that Shadow can also do boost, because of course he can, and the whole thing is you're collecting energy? I can't remember what the game calls it.
Energy cores or something like that.
Yeah, we'll just say there's some boosty chaos energy just floating around. And whichever character collects them all first gets a super boost, and that's how, hey, if you want a really good time, yes, that is how you win the battle. But I love that Sonic gets I don't think it's a full remix, but it's a nice edit of Live and Learn that actually has a proper ending. I think I have it as my ringtone right now, and Shadow gets of All Hail Shadow, right? If he boosts Sonic to death. But really nice, and you get the opening cutscene is a really neat reference to the Sonic Adventure 2 battle added intro.
Yeah, it's all, again, they're doing like some unique stuff here. Like it isn't just the straight up the same battle from the original game, but it's fun. It's interesting, and it's just cool having Shadow there because we like Shadow.
Yep. I think it is more of a set piece compared to the other battles. I think I struggled originally trying to figure out how it worked, but once you get the hang of it, it really is like you can do it in under a minute. But it is a very cool interactive set piece, I'll say, which is not a dig. It's it just is what it is.
Yeah. And I love that you could just knock all the rings out of Shadow. It's very satisfying.
Yep. And I know it happens to Sonic and Shadow a lot, but yeah, getting like knocked into the air going like faster than the speed of sound and then just rolling like they've just been thrown out of a moving car is just never not funny to me. And then if they just get up, they're fine because they're cartoon hedgehogs.
Which transitions right into our other boss battle for this area.
Whoa.
Go,
it's this guy.
Video.
Except it's not Supersonic time.
Yeah, Perfect Chaos is an interesting one. Like it's the closest a boss feels like to, just a normal straight up level.
That's true. You're basically platforming around here on the broken ground, and it's interesting because I can understand maybe trying to give people a bit more ground on it, because some people will really struggle with that Perfect Chaos battle originally, where you're just skimming across the ground as Supersonic, and you're not Supersonic here. So yeah, it makes sense, kind of.
I think it recreates a couple of the set pieces from the original fight pretty well. I like this overall. I did, and maybe it was just the day I was playing it, had a little trouble hitting some of those, launchers and bumpers. But, it looks really nice.
Oh, yeah.
This is another one where it's as close to that Sonic Adventure 2, or Sonic Adventure opening cinematic as they could get with modern graphics. There's a couple of nitpicks. Maybe he's a little too dark blue water. But
okay, I'm glad it's not just me.
I think it. Okay, thank you.
I don't hate the exoskeleton they gave him for this version. My understanding is that they wanted to give him that in the original, but the Dreamcast couldn't handle it.
It's kind of like exoskeleton-y. It looks like the artificial chaos, except perfect chaoses might be made of bones.
It's like lizard skin almost.
But it is funny that you don't have to be Supersonic anymore to beat him. You don't need to seal him in the Master Emerald or try to settle his inner turmoil. It won't change how he feels inside, so you just beat the shit out of him instead.
Yep, just hit his brain a little.
His heart will still remain in turmoil, and his anger just won't vanish. It's fine.
It is funny you said that about the Shadow rival battle. That I remember that discussion with just fans in general, are we plucking these characters out of time, or? And I remember people kind of saying the same thing about the bosses, and I think it's just don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
they
mean, the
did.
game doesn't too much.
No.
Exactly.
We all talk about the changes in the cutscenes and story in this game, but there isn't really that much to it. Let's be honest. They just serve the purpose of like bridging the gaps between all these fun levels. So it's whatever.
I think one of the changes around this point in the game is both Tailses, who are still adorable. Oh, I meant to say during our classic Sonic design discussion that the one unforgivable thing is classic Tails' nose is not big enough. He needs to help.
Right, I was hoping you would have that sort of Judy Tatoya kind of like
Big old
muzzle.
snoot. Yep.
Nah, he's a bit more sort of bauble-shaped head.
He is adorable, but I think one of the changes is indeed when they say we're traveling through time. I think the original line is we're traveling through time and space, which is again an incredibly small change, but makes more sense in this context. That Sonic has to fight perfect chaos because there's a hole ripped in time, but also he's not super. And again, just don't think about it too hard. It's cool. Yes, this next level is the other one, Seaside Hill, and hey, they did it again in Shadow Generations, but just the absolute cojones of Sega to acknowledge that Sonic 06 happened in 2011 and giving us a really fun, good interpretation of one of the worst levels with Crisis City, because that is definitely what Act 2 is. This is like, this is if this level wasn't shit.
No, you're right. That absolutely is it.
I mean, it is, but I still have my issues with this version of the level, particularly like the flame vents on the ground that will like. I feel like I'm never able to time it right to not get blasted by them.
Yeah, those aren't fun. That almost makes me think the challenge where you press the button to summon Blaze to turn those off. Like, hey, maybe you should have had those in this main level, or just not put them there. Because I mean, I do think they're also pretty cheap. I also, unfortunately, as fun as it is, and I'm sure it's just a practice thing, the quote-unquote Mach speed section at the very end of Act 2, it seems like the debris sure are like. There are certain points where they sure seem to just like hit you in the face no matter what.
There's definitely a pattern to it, because I learned it back in the day so I could get the achievement for getting through that section without getting hit. But like it's
takes some practice.
Yeah, it takes some doing, and I did not care to learn it again when I replayed it, because there's no achievement for that anymore. So that, I guess.
One thing is for sure is that Tornado is still carrying a car.
Several of them.
Yeah, many cars actually.
Quite a few.
It's kind of fun because they have made basically it is a lava level for Act 1 basically, and I guess we needed one of those to represent Sonic's greatest hits and horrible parts. I don't think this is like great all the way through. I do think it is a bit clunky, like Luke was saying. It has its issues, but the fact that the thing you have to remember about this is playable, and that is a huge
step up
thing. As someone who played 06.
I remember like the first time playing the game, like coming up onto this, I was like, oh, they put that in here, and then playing it, I was just like, oh, this is fun. I like this.
Yep.
And we can't forget about that moment.
Act 1, this time around, I remember going into it thinking like, oh, I don't know if I liked this one originally. And then I got all the red rings the first time through. I found a couple of the Chow. And when I got to that moment, I was like, yep, I'm ready for about, 90 more seconds of this level. It's... And yeah, I'm glad you said that. It does feel very similar to a like Act 1 Lava Reef, or even some of the the final zones from the classic games, like a Metropolis. It's very sprawling. There's lots of alternate paths and little obstacle filled stretches. And I think Act 1 holds up a lot more solid than I remembered. And again, just so surreal that like, okay, I'm playing the Sonic from Sonic 1, allegedly, in a zone from Sonic 06, and it's not the worst thing I've ever played.
Yeah. One thing I mean, by the way, just in case everyone wondering what we were talking about when we were saying that moment, we are talking, of course, about getting to the goalpost and then it being blown away by the tornado. Just to clarify for those who don't know, great moment. But if you know, you know. One thing I will say about the Act 1 version of this, and I guess I didn't notice it throughout the whole game so far, it has been a consistent thing, is whenever Sonic beats an enemy, of course it makes the classic noise that we're used to hearing when bad blow up. Having that happen when you destroy the Iblis creatures is very funny to me.
Well, don't they make more of the thwack? Like the thwack?
I don't know, I'm hearing the boo when I beat them. I don't know if that's just me. I'm going to have to replay again to make sure that...
I might be thinking of the modern version.
Yeah, they might also make the the scream from Sonic 06, the creature scream, but yes, it is very funny on an organic enemy. Rooftop Run, this is my favorite stage, bar none. It's my favorite continent in Sonic Unleashed, and holy shit, what an experience.
Vibes,
I think I have.
Yes.
I think I might have still framed somewhere a screenshot. Hey, again, our buddy Fred, that he upscaled the game into 4K and released that screenshot, and I printed it out and framed it of the coming down off of the clock tower.
Oh,
I knew that's what it was going to be, with all the balloons in the background and everything.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
The Act 2 remake of the song from Rooftop Run, like it's only a little bit different, but like the string section that they added, oh, it's so good. And
like it has supplanted the original in my mind, and that is not something I often do with remixes.
I know, it's tough because, I mean, the original music is great and it's dynamic, and they for probably obvious reasons couldn't have the dynamism port over to Generations, but this is one of my favorite Sonic songs, period, is Rooftop Run Act 2 from Sonic Generations. Oh, it makes me so happy. What a great song.
As a known not Sonic Unleashed enjoyer, I still think that this is great. It's real fun. It's really pretty to look at. Because we're mostly talking about Act 2 when we say that, and as we zip by across this lovely looking continent and we go past. And sorry, whenever I see the university now all I imagine in my head is I imagine Bubsy Spepmonia Benonia University, as Marin said in our fanfic episode. But
Vector and Jewel and the Ghostbusters getting shot at by Bubsy.
I do love that they incorporated elements of the hub world into the stages. Like, that's such a good touch.
Yeah.
And I like that, they still kept the portion in the modern section where you have to do the rapid quick step between the buildings. But if you if you play it back, it's the mirror of the order that you have to hit the quick step in from the original level.
I never caught that.
I noticed that because I was replaying those levels a lot back in the day, and I'm like, oh, that's fun. I just like that, it carries over so much of what was great about the original, while also just having an even cheerier vibe from all the balloons and the confetti raining down the background and everything. It just feels good, man.
Yeah, like y'all were saying about Speed Highway, I like how all the added details, like the furniture and in the cafes and around the houses that you can take some shortcuts through, and how because Sonic Unleashed was the birth of this boost Sonic gameplay, and so I like how, again, they've improved on so many things to where I think stuff just works better than the original game, like the final section where you're hitting the laser bots into the big Zeppelin. It's just so much fun. It's just a tighter sequence, and it feels more of a reward for the last bit of the level. Like, I think it's pretty hard I think the original might have some rails, or maybe I'm thinking of a challenge, but it feels like you're going to be okay even if you don't nail this, but it is a nice, cool reward if you hit the Zeppelin enough to get the rings to rain down as you hit that gold ring. And
also, hitting it with the clock face is very funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, just to give some positive lip service to Act 1, I actually really enjoy the barrel, subsection in the level. And then of course I very much enjoy like getting the clock face to come out and hit the Zeppelin and running on that, and then getting to the final stretch and just like spin dashing super fast into the goalpost.
Yeah.
Act 1 is really good. Like, I'm really liking it as it feels like a classic level, just with kind of cool new, like the stage develops like in a Sonic.
It's even got the hilltop like the lift things.
I don't know what like ski lift type things. It sure does, man. Yeah, I didn't want to imply Act 1 is bad. It's actually really good. Yeah. And I also love the underground section with the big barrels of
the wine cellar is really
good. The wine cellar.
Yeah. The only reason I said it the way I did was just because we gave so much praise to Act 2 because it is so good, and I just wanted to say like, Act 1's also really good. Here's a couple sections I love.
It's a great setup. It's a different style altogether, but it still has that positive vibe.
It means that the Werehog exclusive sections of the level still get some representation without having to go through that whole rigmarole.
Yeah, of course.
Without a single one of those trumpet saxophones. Oh man. But yes, Rooftop Run, still my favorite level. I remember it inspired me when I replayed Generations. Oh, this was ages ago. I don't think it was too far off from release, but I decided to play every zone that's in Sonic Generations in its original game, and then replayed Sonic Generations. And I remember getting to Rooftop Run and being like, "Yay, 2 rooftop runs!"
Oh, you're like the guy with 2 cakes, huh?
Yes, exactly. Especially after having to go back to Crisis City in Sonic 06, because I said, well...
Yeah, that's a step up.
But yes, love this. And I hope it's not controversial to saying that this last proper level, not my super favorite, but also I like it a lot. I saw a lot of people with this re-release being reeled down on Planet Wisp, but I like them because I think they both feel like final levels of their respective games. Like, this feels like a final classic Sonic level. It plays more like a Metropolis.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right, like a factory level. That's what I was thinking when I was playing.
Yeah.
And I really like Act 2. I think it's incredibly beautiful. I think the original game is also very pretty once you get to Planet Wisp. And gosh dang, that music is great. Love that piano, Mr. Otani, I believe.
Yep.
I think I like Act 1 a little bit more than I like Act 2, just because I like the, what do you call it, like the spin needle or the purple wisp.
Oh, the spikes.
Yeah, spikes.
Spikes.
I'm sorry, Jake. This is where you and I are going to have to diverge.
That's the thing. It's a cool idea, and I like it in small doses. But both of these stages, I think, are a bit too reliant on the Wisp powers, and I get it. They want to show off one of the main gimmicks of Sonic Colors. I do think sometimes I'm it would be nice to take an alternate route where I don't have to get the Spike Wisp, jump on the thing, do a spin dash in time, and I don't know. It's part of what drags these levels out.
The collision and the movement of the spikes in particular is just so rough, and I feel like it never quite works the way I want it to, and so it makes this level very hard for me to want to replay just because it is so finicky.
It unfortunately draws attention to one of the other issues I have, and this is mostly like the 2D modern Sonic challenge levels, to where I don't know if it's a physics bug or, again, could be user error, I admit, but sometimes even though I know I'm holding the direction or facing a certain way, Sonic will boost in the opposite direction of what I want him to. And I feel like these spikes also kind of do that. Now, I don't it's been a while since I played Colors or Colors Ultimate. I don't think it's as finicky as it was in the original game. Spikes is still finicky.
I mean, I will say I replayed the original before Shadow the remake came out, and I felt like I did not have as much trouble with spikes when I played that as I did when I played the new version. So it might be something in the remaster, that's making that a little bit more difficult even, but I couldn't say for sure.
Which, hey, they've been releasing tiny patches here or there since release, so that'll get adjusted.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jake, go right ahead.
I think, now that I think about it, I think the reason why I like Act 1 just a little bit more is I'm remembering a while ago, like a long while ago, I had mentioned that when I play classic Sonic games, I'm definitely a jumpy boy, jumping around, making sure I can like I jump over things, and I mean, like, you know, as you should, but I'm definitely very jumpy. And I think Act 1, the level structure, for my stupid luck, in a good way, works out just right so that I can do very good spin dashes with the spikes, but also jump at the right time to like keep the momentum going. And I could definitely understand, because you like the fact that you cling to the wall so much, like you could kind of paint yourself into a corner for a second and lose momentum and then have to readjust. But because I like jumping so much, it works out a little better for me.
I do think they do a pretty good job of not punishing you for doing that, because the first time I went through Act 1, I did do a lot of, I'm just going to rev the spike and take a big jump and hopefully not hit a bottomless pit, and I never did. So I think that is a valid strategy, and I'm glad it pays off. I do want to say, to give Act 1 another point, I do appreciate its linearity compared to Act 2, because I do remember in the original release getting stuck on the little mine-carty platforms in Act 2, and it's basically you get caught in a loop, because it wants you to make it to certain platforms and use the Wisp to go up to get to the next part, and you can just fall into a loop of like, wait, where am I going? Where am I going?
Annoying.
Well, you go right to left and then left to right, and it's like,
and then up.
then up. I think that's part of why the level drags out so long. I think I was stuck there for like 10 minutes or so on the second act.
It can break that cardinal unspoken Sonic rule of no act should take more than 10 minutes. Yeah, not too bad. Does not end on the stages do not end on a sour note with Planet Wisp. It just takes all of your pre-established skills plus the wisps, which is a whole other discussion in of itself. But before we make it to that final boss that is still bad, sorry, spoilers, folks. We have one more set of regular bosses in a rival battle. Silver, hey, I love that guy.
Talk about a glow-up comparing the original boss fight to this one.
Yeah, man.
God, if you're going to put these battles against each other, I mean, like, come on. It's no use.
I was going to say, you could try to compare them, but it's no use.
Yeah, that's...
I love the Sonic Shadow rival battle as a set piece. This, I think, is my favorite rival battle with Metal Sonic close behind, just because it's super cool. And yeah, like you said, what a glow up for, a character I've always had a soft spot for, but it's hard to admit that his biggest role was in a game that is forgotten or what, like, written out of the timeline. Which, hey, look, this is just me, because this is a re-release. It has all the current cast, and if you didn't know, Silver is now played by Bryce Papenbrook. I just gotta say, people need to hop off my man, because he did not do anything to Silver the Hedgehog to ruin him, except have most of his new dialogue be in a game that people have issues with the story, which is a racing game. So come on. I really love the half a dozen lines he has that he recorded in this game. And I hope he gets a chance to even pick up a pan so he can begin to cook as Silver in a future title.
I don't know. I wish they had gotten the guy from Death Battle instead.
You see? It's no use!
Yeah.
That guy leagues above.
Yeah.
But no, this is a super fun fight. This is another one where you can skip some cycles if you play flawlessly, and it's just what a great spectacle of how cool Silver can be.
Think about it. This is unlike, in the ruins of Crisis City, as you do a running battle and he's coming after you with his psychokinesis. And think about his original first fight. He's fighting outside a cafe.
Yeah. throwing umbrellas at you and
Stun locking you forever.
I do love his line in the text box before this, where he recognizes Sonic, but he says like, "Wait, no, are you some kind of fake here to steal the Chaos Emerald?" And it's like, "Wait, no, Silver," and then he just goes like, "Hey, that's my Silver."
And then if you replay the fight, it's like, "Oh yeah, this should be fun. Let's go, Sonic."
Yep. The same exact fight where I'd throw a Katamari ball at you, but
I love the
now it's for fun.
La 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 la.
No, it's really good. It really did back in the day be like, oh yeah, Silver, good for you, man. Like he's a real guy to me. And also the Egg Dragoon, which is super cool in a fun modern Sonic fight. But
oh, it's fun, is it?
I
Sorry, no, I don't think it's that bad. I just struggled with it.
Yeah.
Okay,
is what it is.
I will say it's one of those that takes a lot of practice because there are timing things and also lots of different phases. But again, I appreciate the design that you can skip basically half the fight if you get it just right.
Yeah, and I want to skip that skydiving section because I do struggle with that one quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a reason why in our outline I listed this as the Derek Killer.
I know.
Because this was the point that broke him when he did his playthrough. He had to replay this fight so many times, and he got to the point where he's just so frustrated. He's like, I'm not having fun with this game anymore, and immediately changed his tune on the whole thing because the 1-2 punch of this and the final boss was like, God, this fucking sucks.
I don't blame him.
I think this boss had the biggest upswing for me with the remaster, and not because of any perceivable on my end things that they did for it, but just the fact that I remember playing it on the 360 the first time and struggling a lot and just be like, I guess just not fully understanding like how the phases worked or not being able to like get the timing right for the rails and just being really frustrated. But this time, like with I guess so many years apart from it, playing it and like getting into the right flow state and like I guess having more practice with like boosting on rails just in general and stuff like that, and it was more fun for me. It's still definitely not my favorite boss in the entire game at all, but it definitely, I don't know, it worked better for me this time, so I enjoyed it at least a little bit more.
I'm glad that they managed to fix it with the remastered version because it really was a time for a change of pace.
I have to concur with Jake, but again, I couldn't tell you if they actually changed anything, but I did just have more fun with it this time around, and maybe it's because I remembered being frustrated on the wall jumpy sections where he slams those downs and remembering like, oh wait, I gotta wait half a second so I don't hit that energy thing, but I could see where this could be very frustrating.
Yeah, like particularly like I always got frustrated in the 3D sections because it was like I could never manage to actually get close enough to hit him during the sections where Sonic's running forward, and I'd always have to wait for the 2D sections, so that was always particularly frustrating for me. It just made the boss go way longer than it should have.
Yeah.
Also, I also recall back when this game came out, everybody was claiming that Eggman was actually saying, "Time to arrange your face!"
Well, that would have been different.
Yeah, pretty close to squash you into a blue jelly.
Yeah.
By the way, I cannot compare this to the original version of this fight because I didn't get that far in Sonic Unleashed, and that was a werehog battle anyway. So
I was about to say
it's functionally completely different.
I couldn't remember if there was an Egg Dragoon in 06 or if this was a pure Sonic Unleashed fight.
Yep.
But and I remember the werehog being a lot of QuickTime events at the end, and that looks cool, but the rest of the fight is anyway. Yes, sorry, werehog, you are not even acknowledged.
We'll get there when we get there.
Eventually. Hey, final boss, the time eater, time to save the world. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I know. I don't.
No,
no. Any excuse to delay talking about the time eater.
That's true.
I'm also trying. We are going to have to speed through the 3DS section.
Oh, so
okay.
what it comes down, so like there's a little cutscene after this where, and this reminds me that I actually missed something about like the remastered version of this, is at the end of the Death Egg robot boss in this version of the game, you actually see it's classic Eggman piloting it, and he gets taken away, whereas in the original it was obscured and you just heard Eggman's voice, so maybe you assumed it was the modern one. But in this one, they keep that, you see him now, and in the cutscene after this, instead of being like, I thought Eggman was taken earlier, they say, like, now your Eggman has been taken as well. I'm not sure why they made this change, other than I guess it wasn't really necessary to make it a surprise that classic Eggman was there, but it's one of those ones where I'm a little scratching my head a little bit about it.
Well, I remember seeing the comparison between the original scene and forgetting that was even a thing, that, oh, it's obscured. I'm like, did they forget to animate it in the original? Because, it makes much more sense. Because why would it be a surprise that classic Eggman is here? Because classic Sonic and Tails are here. And, I mean, they sound slightly different, but they still sound a little different. So, I don't know. That is an interesting change. I think the revision makes a lot more sense. Like, do you think I'm stupid and don't know that there are two Eggmen?
Yeah.
I guess that's it, is not insulting the audience's intelligence a lot at this point.
I do love the banter between the Eggmen.
Yes.
I mean, it's top tier. Oh, please explain our plan. The most genius Eggman of the past. Oh, I'd be happy to. Most vociferous Eggman of the future. Whatever. It's so funny.
I appreciate that there's a little bit of the Eggmen be kind of snapping at each other a little bit during that initial cutscene of the original version. They cut that out so they are still, in full agreement up until, the post-credit scene. But
I do wonder if the reason for that is maybe, again, like the fat shaming joke in the original version of the cutscene when Eggman does his big sort of like over the top woo laugh. The classic Eggman goes, "Do I really get that crazy?" And these days when it comes to use of language, so instead he says, "And people say I'm eccentric" in the new version of that.
I think, look, that's another one where I think that's perfectly fine. Like, I understand if you might say, like, whoa, I think we're, has it gone too far? No, like both lines work, and I think it's just fine. But I could also see, I understand why. And like, again, it's not like they're cutting content. They're bringing it more in line with their modern vision. So it's fine. It's still funny. Like, the joke is still exactly the same. It's that he's pointing out, like, oh, geez, that's going to be me.
Oh yeah, by the way, they were piloting the time eater. They took control of an ancient evil artifact, and actually, you know what? This time it didn't come back to bite them. Well, I suppose it did because they lose. Spoilers, by the way.
I mean, that's less of it coming back to bite them in the same way as like Dark Gaia or Chaos or whatever have you.
It's the Sonic factor. It's always the Sonic factor.
Yeah.
What does Sonic say? I think the new line is, our scorecard is practically flawless.
In the original, he says, "We always beat this guy. It's like our job or something." And he can't say that because Sonic isn't allowed a job. He's a vagabond. He's not allowed to work or live anywhere.
That change is a little interesting because I think it was a callback to a Cubot line from Colors where he's like, "It's like it's his job or something."
Oh, yeah. Huh. That's another one. I don't know. Again, whatever.
Sonic doesn't want to acknowledge what Cubot has to say. Nobody does.
Well, they're not in this game, so maybe that's
Except
it.
in that flashback for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
we know why now.
We do know the why now, but also they make that flashback more explicit in this version. Like the original was like, after my latest plan failed, whereas the new version is like, after the destruction of my interstellar amusement park, like just straight up being like, yeah, that's what happened last time.
Yeah,
again, not being so coy about it because, like, hey, that was the last game, so might as well acknowledge it.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, isn't one of the unchanged lines from the very beginning where Tails says something like, "Oh, this sure is strange," and Sonic says, "Hey, nothing weirder than fighting genies or saving aliens from an interstellar amusement park."
I love it. People were posting that before and saying, I can't believe Ian Flynn did this reference. That's from the game, the ritual, you fools.
You silly biscuits. But you do get a. I mean, this. Hey, if we're talking last cutscenes and my favorite change, when both Sonics get smashed by the giant Time Eater hands and they're lying dead on the ground, and Elise is not there to kiss them back to life. All of Sonic's lovely friends that are not shit, and I'm glad they're here. Give their words of encouragement. And yes, the best change in the game is Shadow no longer says, "You got this, Sonic," but he just says, "On your feet."
That's so much stronger.
Yes, it rules.
Honestly, I feel like all of the lines are better in the newer version.
Yeah.
Yes, Silver and Blaze, I think, have completely different lines.
Yeah, he was like, use the Emerald, Sonic, harness their power.
Whereas everyone's just comes up and says, you can do it, Sonic, or some variation of that.
Yeah.
Sonic, you're good, and you're good at doing things. Do the thing. You can win.
Wind.
It's like, no. Oh, wind. Sonic, you are the wind.
And it is a new recording from Roger. I don't think I ever realized, I think this line was spliced for Smash 4 and Sonic Ultimate. Yes.
All of Sonic's lines in Smash were from other games, and this was one of them.
Yes, that they didn't even get, probably a union thing, didn't even get poor Roger in the Nintendo studios, you union busting fucks. But yes, where he says, time to supersonic style. And then you get a really boring, kind of let down final boss.
It really is. Like, everyone talks about it, but it's true. I remember getting to this being like, oh yeah, final battle, supersonic stuff. Oh, it's shit. And that's kind of, and it is.
I will say up top, it's not as bad as I remembered it. It is just very boring. It does not do a good job of telling you what to do.
Despite all the characters non-stop yapping, telling you it's a homing shot all the time. That's all they'll tell you.
Yes, it's a homing shot straight into my super ass because I don't know what I'm supposed to do to dodge them. And again, it's not hard. It's not difficult. It's just
normally, but if you were like me and went for the try not to beat the boss without getting hit achievement,
I do that
because I don't have self-control.
Fair enough.
But I did it, and it was
I did it in the
worst.
original.
It is.
I'm gonna have to do it in this one, and it's stupid. But again, I guess I will say after the spectacle that is the rest of the game, after that sequence in Rooftop Run at the clock tower, you basically just fighting the Time Eater in a Doctor Who screensaver.
It really is. And you can switch between perspectives to 2D and 3D, and it does something, I guess, right?
Yeah.
He occasionally moves between the two, but it's like if you're not in the same thing, then you can't actually catch up to him. And I would occasionally switch sometimes just if I knew that like an attack that I wasn't going to be able to avoid was there. Like sometimes the warping arm is just really hard to avoid in general, and it's like it's so frustrating and stupid. It's a terrible boss battle, poorly implemented, and that was the one thing that I think everybody unanimously was hoping they would improve with the remaster, and they did not at all.
Oh well. I would argue it's slightly more fun, quote unquote, to play in the 3DS version, but it's still the same. It's very boring looking and does not cap off that game with a,
I at least felt more engaged
well.
in the 3DS version.
I knew what I was trying to do for the most part in the 3DS version. I still got really upset trying to play it because at the end of the day it's still a bit of a slog and some of the bits are just dragging out your rings. So hey Jake, what did you think of this boss battle?
Basically the same thing all y'all said. Like, it's nothing spectacular. I don't hate it as much as I think people online do. I don't.
Hi, I'm people online.
I can't say that I have any hate for it at all, but I definitely don't like it. It is just there, and it is a boss section where you switch between 3D and 2D and collect rings, and It's better than Black Dragon and Sun.
I was just thinking of like, it didn't inspire the same sort of hatred from you that the dragon,
Sonic
that bad dragon from Superstars.
No, Black Dragon. Bad Dragon is something else.
No.
I know what
Is it ever? So after that not so fun boss, you get again a very lovely closing cutscene. We're back at Sonic's birthday. The Tailses are not talking about Sonic shoving all the rings he collects up his butthole. Instead, they're making sure that time travel, or they are reaffirming that time travel never makes any sense in whatever story you try and shove it into. So don't worry about it too much. But,
it is interesting that they cut out the ring stuff. Some people saying, Sega doesn't like the rings to be canon anymore, and, there's a whole discussion to be had about that sort of thing. But I think, also, it makes no sense because Tails does the same shit in the game, so whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's a perfectly cute joke that is, yes, it is literally meta. I think in the original, it's a cute joke, but in the revision, yeah, it works. This works too. They also, I think it's funny that they also, after making the first Green Hill change, they changed the portal that classic Sonic and Tails are going through to be from Green Hill to just a blank portal, because I'm sure the note was, yes, but Tails wasn't in Sonic 1, so don't send him back to that version of Green Hill. It's so silly. But again, another change that doesn't matter. Amy does not violently push Knuckles into a tree because it's okay to hurt men, right? Standing up for men's rights in this.
It's slapstick. It's okay if it's slapstick that Knuckles, the guardian of the Master Emerald, is easily manhandled like that.
Yes, because he's a stupid idiot with a moron brain. No, that's another one where, again, in the original, it's funny, but also the change, I'm like, I get it. Maybe they don't want to have Knuckles and Amy be like the silly butt monkeys of the series anymore. Like, it makes Knuckles look stupid, and it makes Amy look violent and irrational because she's a woman, right? But
hey, that's her character, Jeremy. That is exactly who Amy Rose is.
Yes.
And when you take away those horrible feminine qualities that make her obnoxious and terrible, she's no longer Amy Rose. Actually, there's a more nuanced discussion to have about this, but we're not having it today.
I agree. Hey, we didn't mention Rouge's tits, so we're doing good.
Oh, that's next time, I think.
This is also the cutscene, I feel like, where they are trying to stretch the word count with the unchanged animation.
It's quite a bit.
Yes.
Like
Roger speeding through, boosting through his lines.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you that the look forward to your future, it's gonna be great. That line hits so much better now.
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry.
Does.
Maybe it's, even back then, people were like, oh, do you get the Sonic 06? I'm like, no, that's okay. Maybe it's just because, okay, sincerity moment here from Game Buddy, that I like, that is the thing you would want to tell your younger self, like, hey, shit happens, but look at me now. I'm still here, man. It's going to be great. So I think it's a very cute line.
Yeah, because you imagine if he was like, it's going to be pretty sketchy for a while. You're going to have some real stinkers. Actually, it's going to be really, people are going to take the piss out of you for years. It's going to, and then the people running the Twitter are going to take the piss out of you to be like, see, it's okay when we make fun of ourselves, and it's going to be really dire and unpleasant for a while. But then you'll get some good games, and then it'll be worse again. But then you'll get some good games again, and then it'll be worse again. And it just goes on for about an hour.
And never, ever go on the internet. Ever.
Don't kill yourself, classic Sonic.
No.
Or I'll cease to exist.
Not in Sonic Forces, because it's a separate dimension. No.
Now that we've gotten through the console version more or less, let's get into the 3DS version a little bit, because this game's kind of gotten buried, and I don't know that that's necessarily fair to it.
Yeah.
Like, I realize, I saw people speculating, oh, well, this remaster, maybe that means that they're going to add in all the levels and the bosses from the 3DS version. I'm like,
No.
come on, guys, don't.
They didn't do it for Sonic Colors. They're not going to do it for this. But
Yeah.
I do want to say we're not going to go through it in excruciating detail like we did the console version, but this is a perfectly fine Sonic portable platformer of the time. If you've never played it, I would absolutely recommend to go try it right now.
For essentially being Sonic Rush 4, this does feel like a step down from the previous games, but it's fine. I think the level design is a little safe at points, a little too hallway or reliant on homing attack chains, because controversial, like two or three levels in, classic Sonic unlocks the homing attack.
Oh,
Despicable behavior. Cannot believe this. But it almost makes up for the fact, I suppose it's just to balance things out, because weird thing about this is classic Sonic handles better in this than he does in the console one. He actually
I agree.
I think
he plays a bit more
arguably
like the
does.
Mega Drive version. It's got a proper spin dash.
It's especially evident because, like, the first three zones in the classic era, all, like, the classic Sonic stages use the exact level
They sure do.
Mega Drive layouts, no changes.
I do want to point out that the S rank requirements for the console version, I would say, are fairly generous, and maybe that's on purpose because it feels really good to make it through a level without dying and get the Sonic's, super excited S rank dance. The rank requirements on the 3DS version are insane. To a degree where, because there's no tangible reward for doing it, I would say don't even bother.
Don't hurt yourself.
And yes.
Yeah, because they I wouldn't say they hand out like S ranks like candy in Sonic Generations of console. Sometimes I did feel like, oh, I did shit that time. Oh, never mind, I got an S rank anyway. It's like, oh, yay!
Like,
Sonic-
as long as you don't lose a life, you're usually pretty good about getting S ranks. in
Again,
Generations.
not to jump to another episode, I think Shadow Gens is the perfect balance between having it be challenging and having it feel like it's not impossible.
Except those last two stages. But again,
I
we'll
didn't
wait
want to
for
say
that.
yeah. Next, I am
Sorry.
holding my tongue until next episode.
No, yes, you will. In fact, I'll probably cut that out. But I want you to have your say for certain.
Oh, for sure.
I'm gonna replay from the beginning, and I'll see if I just needed to get a good night's sleep.
Also, I forgot to mention this small change in the remastered version of the console game that I really welcome: multiple save slots.
Yes.
Yes.
True.
That's actually like a huge thing because I don't want to like lose all my progress and my records every time I want to, start things from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Just to, even though you unlock all the cutscenes and there's just something to like being able to play through it like it's a new game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the 3DS version, I think it's fine. There's stuff that I wish that they had, done a little more with, because again, like, this is basically Sonic Rush 4, and one of the biggest things is that, leading up to this game, Sonic Team was talking about, we want the console version to be a celebration of Sonic's console history, whereas the 3DS version is more based on the portable history. And it's like, is it really though?
Yeah. Right.
Let me read the list of stages for the 3DS version.
Oh boy, here we go.
Green Hill. I mean, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in the Game Gear version of Sonic 1, technically.
Yep.
This is true. Yes.
Casino Night as built out into a proper level. Okay, sure. Sonic 2, everybody knows that one. Mushroom Hill, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, another okay. Emerald Coast. Yeah, people know Radical Highway? I mean, that was a shadow level.
Who keeps shoving Radical Highway in things?
I just think it's neat.
Water Palace. There you go. Sonic Rush. Good one.
handheld.
Yeah.
Portable. Great.
Tropical Resort.
The colors.
Yeah.
Technically, Sonic Rush 3, quote unquote. Sonic.
Yeah, they
Colors
use
DS.
It uses the burst wisp that's only in the DS version.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
that's it. So 1.5 portable stages.
Not a single thing from Sonic 2 8-bit, and Jessamine is cursing in the background.
I mean, I am too at this point because y'all didn't even try. I mean,
To be
again,
fair, I suppose most people aren't actually familiar with all the portable ones, and they just wanted to do stuff that most
Right.
people would remember, which is
Bro, Sonic
casino
Advance
level.
wasn't that long before this.
yeah, but nobody's played that now.
I would say they could have done like they did for Sonic CD and put it into the minds of like Sonic fans who hadn't played it at the time. So we could have people who, oh, never mind. They put all those Game Gear games in Sonic Adventure DX. They knew people didn't give a shit. I was
They're
trying
kind
to
of the
make a
thing
point there, realizing
There's
I'm
something they roll out just to be like, shit, we need to release a physical version of Origins. Game Gear games. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I really would have preferred it if they like, hey, throw some Game Gear level Sonic Triple Trouble, like you said, Advance, a different Sonic Rush, but
Rush Adventure Stage.
yeah. Oh well, it's fine. It's a
I mean,
fun
it only
game.
has 7 levels, and I suppose that's to coincide with the fact that, there's 7 emeralds and there's a
Yeah, and
special
this
stage.
one actually has special stages. to
Sonic
unlock
Hero
the
style
emeralds.
ones, and they're actually
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I played them, and I didn't want to kill myself. So
I feel like the classic era stages lack a little bit of the punch because of the fact that they are so closely based on the original Genesis version, so you don't get as much of like the big set pieces, at least not in classic. Like modern, you have like the big totem pole in Green Hill falls down. Casino Night has the roulette. There's that grinding section in Mushroom Hill, but it's just there's not as much there. They get a little better at that in some of the later stages. Like, Emerald Coast has implementation of the whales in 2 different ways for each stage. Radical Highway has like the big blimps that you actually bounce off of to get to higher areas. Water Palace has the giant robot that's like trying to smash its way through the wall at you, stuff like that.
But yeah, it's a nice little game, and if you've never played it, I definitely think you should.
you might just remember, you got to have lives. I forgot that while I was playing Radical Highway Act 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, there's game overs in this. Oh,
Another
no.
really good change for the re-release on console is you can turn on lives, but they are off by default because you don't really need them.
Different bosses, by the way, aside from the last one.
Oh,
That's
true.
something-
Yes.
Like same rival battles, except for they're not really battles; they're just races.
Yeah,
kind of like Sonic Rivals.
it's like
actually.
Sonic Rivals. Yeah.
There you go. That's a portable representation, kind of. They just kind of like lump them in the levels that they've already got. So Metal Sonic races you in Casino Night Zone. Got a gambling problem, as pointed out in the outline. Shadows in where was Shadow again?
In Radical Highway.
Radical Highway. Oh yeah, that's fair enough. He keeps going back there. And Silver is in Tropical Resort because why not? They had limited resources. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Silver's is especially dumb because it's like he's not even running most of the time. He's just randomly teleports in front of you.
Yeah.
Nothing personnel, kid.
such a douche. And then he throws boxes at you. My PTSD is activated.
But
But now
bosses
we
in
got 3 original bosses. We got Big Arms from Sonic 3, which might be one of the best remixes in either game.
It's real
It's
good.
real strong.
Very good.
Gives me those Project Chaos vibes.
Yes, it really does. I think it's a Jun Senue versus Cash remix.
Yes.
Very, very good.
The boss itself is kind of like a reimagining of the battle. It's got like new gimmicks and stuff until he starts flying at you. Maybe a bit quick and easy, but whatever. I like the vibes of Big Arm. Always do.
I love it. Like when he picks you up now, he like straight up swings its arm and slams you to the ground.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like that one boss in that last boss in Sonic Pocket Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Representing the Dreamcast era of the 2 levels that we got for it is Bio Lizard, another famous Sonic stage boss. This was Shadow, but now Sonic does it.
I thought it was funny that after this, he's talking to Tails, and I think Tails says something like, "Oh, but I never thought I'd see BioLizard again." And then Sonic goes like, "Yeah, well, I fought him before." And I'm like, "No, you didn't, you liar."
Technically, he did. Although I suppose it was Final Hazard or Final Lizard if you're going by that Sonic.
Yes,
but I guess what it. Do you know what? Stolen Valor from Sonic.
Yes. Could be a funny thing where, Shadow isn't there to correct him, but Shadow would correct him if he was there.
Yeah.
And representing them, I guess, the modern era is Egg Emperor from Sonic Heroes. Okay.
Why are you here?
Seriously. It's a good battle. I quite liked it, but why? I guess they just wanted an Eggman one, I guess.
It's a cool remix too.
I don't know. That one feels like the most unnecessary of them. I almost think I would have like swapped out BioLizard for Egg Emperor as the
right there
boss fight for that era, and then gotten something actually from the modern games.
Either a Colors boss or a Rush boss. Come on, man.
Yeah, put in a Rush Adventure boss just so that game gets some representation.
Yes.
They just needed to have an Eggman one there for the the story, I guess. So I guess they could have put like one of the Rush one. Yeah.
Original Rush, yeah.
Getting all worked up about this portable game that they're never going to make another one of.
They didn't have enough money.
Yeah, and like we said, Time Eater Fight's better, but it's still a slog.
Still kind of a letdown. It has its own version of challenges, which the
challenges in this one are interesting because they are not unlocked by default. You have to unlock them by street passing or paying play coins.
Oh my God. I did not realize that booting it back up because I was like, oh, maybe it's. And are there red rings in the level? And then realize, oh my God, I did not realize that. Jeez, oh man.
I have to walk? What?
Not anymore. I think you can still
unlock
them
all because play coins.
Yeah.
But like the whole thing is just, it was back in that era when people were really trying to push the connectivity features of the 3DS because it's also got versus mode, which I believe could actually be played online. One of the things we didn't really mention about the original game is that it had a time attack mode, which is either just standard time attack or I can't remember if it's 30-second or 1-minute trial where it's like get as far in the level as you can in a specific time limit, and then it just ranks you based on how far you get within that time limit. And I thought that was really cool. I would like to see that in more Sonic games, but no, in this you get points for playing against other players and submitting your time attack times, and those points will let you get more like cosmetics to decorate your player profile section or whatever, so you can get different Sonic game backgrounds to put in your player card. And it's now you can't do that anymore because all the servers are shut down and Pretendo doesn't support it, and it's it's weird.
Well,
like I appreciate them trying. Like this is a game that has a lot of ambition. Like I feel like they wanted to do something different for this game, and I respect them for trying that. But it's I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it quite hits as much. Also, I'm salty because this also has unlockable music, and you can't use them in stages.
Yeah, that would probably be. I would imagine that would be pretty difficult for such a limited title. But no, again, I think it's absolutely worth a try. I think I've said that for all of the DS, 3DS games so far that we've discussed.
I could see myself playing it like if I had nothing better to do and I still carried my 3DS.
I appreciate that some of the unlockables you get in this game are like concept art from like Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush.
Yeah.
That's cool. And also photographs of an image of a game for every year leading from 1991 to 2011, and also like 3D images of the 10th, 15th, and 20th anniversary statues.
Ooh.
So that's neat.
And by 3D, we mean 3D, because it's on the 3DS.
Yes.
The biggest missed opportunity, I think, is that, the remaster added in those Find the Lost Child missions, and all it did was let you, get them hanging out in the main hub world and unlock little pictures of them in the gallery. What they should have done is use those to let you unlock the 3DS music tracks for use in the main
that'd be
game.
dope.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity, and it's dumb.
No, you get them all and you unlock Chow Garden like everyone's been demanding after all. Yeah,
Come on, guys.
no.
I gotta say, I really hold the 3DS version in high esteem. I really enjoy the 3DS version, and maybe it's because I actually still have not played the Sonic Rush games yet. Although because of my hacked Vita,
We're gonna have to fix that.
yeah, I have a hacked Vita and I can play them now. But I overall, I really enjoy the game. I think the only level that I generally just I don't hate it, but I just don't like it is Water Palace. But
The only portable level.
yeah, and I feel bad about that. But I personally really enjoy what the game does. I like the special stages. Those are very fun to me, even as they get progressively harder and harder. Up until the last one where you have to be almost perfect.
Do you? Because I played the last one. That was pretty easy.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different one prior to the final one, but
Yeah, maybe.
But I enjoy the special stages in the game, and I actually have some notes that I wanted to go over real quick. I think as far as my favorite aesthetic to the game, Mushroom Hill is just so beautifully made in 3D. I love it, and
It is really nice from what I remember.
oh yeah, if there was
There's a really good color palette too.
yeah, if there was a game or if there was a level from this game that I wanted on console, it'd be Mushroom Hill just because of how good it looks. I love the fact that in Emerald Coast when when the orca is trying to get you, its teeth closing make sword slice and sheath sounds.
Oh yeah.
It's such a
I know
interesting
exactly the
choice.
sound effects you mean too.
Yeah. Most of my other notes are just the fact that some of the levels I think Egg Emperor gave me trouble the first time around, but then when I played it the second time around, I had a better flow of it, which just is instinctive of human learning. But yeah, honestly, I really enjoy the 3DS version, and to me, it's a good pairing to Sonic Generations, the console version, because it feels like if you played Sonic Generations on the console and you love the level choices but wish that different levels were in it, that if you wish the selections were different, play the 3DS one, because it probably has at least one or two levels that you wish were in the console version in there. For me, I love Mushroom Hill, but I also love the inclusions of Emerald Coast and Radical Highway. I think those are great.
And I mean, now we can see the different design the different design concepts for a level like Radical Highway, since they did that one again.
Also, I have a soft spot for Tropical Resort, just because I play Sonic Colors every Christmas, that first level, and so
Yeah,
I like that more than Planet Wisp.
It's a good level. Bit weird for the final level, but it's in space, I suppose. That's escalation.
And that's my 2 cents on 3DS version.
All right.
Yeah, you could tell that they were really going for it on 3DS, and even if I don't think it landed as well as the console one, I respect the hell out of them for really trying with it.
Oh yeah,
They did what they could, I think, is that's the vibe I get. They were pushing at the seams of what they were capable of doing on that one.
Yeah, I'm trying not to judge it so much for what it isn't rather than what it is. And what it is it's fine.
I still will say that I wish Sega would go back to having smaller Sonic games like this, just so we can have more experimental things and just more stuff like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I miss this era. I know I've said that
Instead,
a lot.
you've got to have an Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
I guess that's their
Right.
small version, quote unquote.
I mean, it is those dang apps. They killed the portable games. That
Imagination
Nintendo
phones.
just saying,
I mean,
screw
they're
it,
still
we'll do
portable
both.
games. Kinda. I mean, you take them with you.
Yeah,
Technically, this remaster's a portable game.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know
on
what?
the,
That's true.
on your?
Because I did. Yeah, this is a good point to mention that I think we all. Well, I can't remember. I think most of us, if not every single one of us, played the remaster on different consoles. I played on the Switch because that just works out better for my daily life.
Yeah, I think me and Falero did PS5, Luke did PC, and you did the Switch. I was curious, like before we wrap up, how does the Switch look by comparison?
So I played it in handheld mode and on the TV, and I think it looks great on both ends. And I never noticed any gameplay issues. It's really solidly made for the Switch. I didn't notice any drops in frames per second or like any glitches. Yeah, it's really solid. I think it plays very well on the Switch, and especially like if you're the type of person who maybe doesn't get to do a lot of gaming at home, or you want to do more gaming but in different places, I think, and you really want to play this remaster along with Shadow Generations, both of those play very well on the Switch. So pick that up.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to know. I know sometimes you see, and hey, people have their preferences. I get it, but thinking that like, oh, the Switch or having to put it on legacy systems is like holding Sonic games back. And I don't think it is, because I think all that does come down to optimization. And I think, I think that came up when we talked about Frontiers, to where that game has a lot of, graphical issues that I think they could fix. But at the same time, I'm very glad to know that, like, although the visuals and frame rate aren't up to par with the modern consoles or PC, that it's still a perfectly pretty playable game, like on Switch. Like, yeah. I think that's still worth celebrating, that they can do that and not make crazy compromises. Like, I think the big one is putting the modern Mortal Kombat games on Switch, and those look like not good.
Two games.
Sonic Generations, how we still like it, fellas? What do we? Huh? Come on.
I'm still a big fan. I'm still a big fan of the Generations games. The Generations 1.0, the 3DS version, and the remaster, I think, are all very, very good games, and I think they're really good introduction games for people, except for Egg Dragoon.
Derek.
Yeah.
I've threatened that I'm going to make him play Shadow Generations, and I'm going to hold him to that.
Man, I would like to see that. I agree. I think, man, it's hard for me. I almost hate having discussed favorites, because it's hard for me to ever pick a favorite anything. People are like, oh, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite album? I'm like, I'm too complicated and also paralyzed by choice to be able to tell you that. But I can tell you, I still really love Sonic Generations, and I think it has a lot of things that I am glad are still in modern Sonic games, if that makes sense. Lowercase m modern Sonic games current. And again, not to again get into my thoughts on Shadow Generations, but I'm glad to see a lot of those improvements in there, speaking generally. Still really good. I think it's lived up to its legacy. I'm really glad to see not only like from like a games journalist perspective, but like critical outlets have received his collection very nicely, but just people in general who didn't play the original or haven't played it in a while and being like, oh yeah, I remember this one. It's still a lot of fun. And I know we're running long. We got to play lip service to the wonderful fan mod legacy that the original release has.
That's the biggest thing to come out of Generations.
That has thankfully been preserved by Sega. I think as close as you're going to get to a company saying like, no, it's okay that you do all this, and we're not just going to delete this game because we have a new version coming up. I mean, the big one that comes to mind that I would tell anybody who can run the original on PC is the Unleashed incorporation that takes not only the daytime stages from Unleashed, but like incorporates them basically into an entirely new game. Like it's almost like a separate DLC campaign for Sonic Generations. And
I need to play that.
man, what a wonderful like work of art. And goes without saying, like little improvements, character skins, new music, graphics and control tweaks, all kinds of stuff. It is one of just the most a very creative group of Sonic fans just poured their hearts into modding Sonic Generations.
Got a lot of mileage out of this game, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the fact that assets for Green Hill and those other classic ones still show up. Like that is part of this game's legacy, and that Death Egg. I'm always happy to see that model of the Death Egg show back up.
Yep.
It's so cool. But yeah, Sonic Generations.
I think it's still pretty darn good. I don't know if I like it quite as much as I did a long time ago, even if I do have, like, great nostalgia for 13 years ago when I first played it. I do feel like the fact that Sonic has improved in many ways has sort of like made me go, like, appreciate how far he's come to look back, especially in terms of representation of classic Sonic, the boy I was even here for to begin with. But I still think it's really solid. It's a nice, breezy game that doesn't drag out too long, and I really enjoyed until the end.
Just like this
Both
podcast, right, folks?
I am having trouble, like, really working through my own thoughts because, like I said, for a long time, this was my favorite Sonic game, and it still might be, but at the same time, coming back to the remaster right after playing the other half of the remaster does make me, more aware of the points where where I wish I had a little bit more control over Sonic. He wasn't quite so stiff. I wish I had, the other gameplay enhancements from Frontiers that have happened in the time since, or that the physics were a little closer to something like Superstars. And, it's hard for me to kind of look at this game in a vacuum when also considering that there have been other Sonic games in the time since, especially considering that, like, when you get down to it, this game is also, it's putting its own spin on it, but it is still primarily based on everything else that comes before. So it does have kind of an issue of not really having its own identity. And that's something that I've had to kind of like make my peace with as I've worked through my own feelings on Sonic Generations. And I don't know. I think that if it is still my favorite, and it might still be, it's probably now, like, the gap has closed between that and number 2, which would probably be SA2. So I could see myself going back and forth between them on any given day. But I think it is still a solid Sonic game, one of the better ones, and beloved for a reason. I would, in a heartbeat say, like, yeah, go get this. It's great. Especially even if somebody is not super familiar. I mean, it's like the Mania problem where if they're not familiar with the levels themselves, then they might not get as much out of it. But I think it's still a solid game worth playing, even if you are not, like, super deep on Sonic.
It is sort of like a taster of what Sonic has been. So I guess, like, even if you don't have quite the same nostalgia, it's sort of being like, this is the history of Sonic and some of the best bits that we're picking out. So
it's the Sonic appetizer platter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a good appetizer platter. It's got the stuff that you're like, why isn't this on the main menu?
Ooh, like those really crisp mozzarella sticks with a good cheese pull. Not too oily. Some jalapeno poppers wrapped in bacon.
I'm having a King of Town moment where I'm like, but I love too oily.
Rooftop Run is like those beer battered breadsticks they give you.
Oh,
ooh, yeah. So yeah, I think this was again, I just echo the positive positive agreements, and I'm actually really glad like we could talk about some of the, like I said, the interesting, like, this game has been re-released, it's 13 years old, and some of the things that I'm happy to say, like you said, switching between Shadow Gens and this, and having to get used to the older control scheme and physics of Sonic Generations. But in the back of my head, I'm saying, like, yeah, and I'm really glad that they've gotten better. And whatever the comes after this, whether it's Sonic Frontiers 2 or something else, I'm pretty excited to just see where they go from here. Like, I'm not as I don't have as much trepidation as I might have before, especially since other re-releases, remasters weren't as solid as this one. But yeah, Sonic Generations, I'm glad it's still around.
Me too.
Yes.
If everyone's ready, I'm going to take us out.
I'm glad that a new generation of Sonic fans can enjoy Generations.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. And also, I'm glad that Twitter is dying or dead by the time this comes out, and none of the annoying Sonic fans can bother me on Blue Sky, which is where you can find us under the account Sonic F on Blue Sky, as well as other social media places, including YouTube at Sonic F Series, where you're potentially listening to this. And I have been your host for this episode today, Game Buddy, and you can find me on Blue Sky at jeremybaker.actor or around the rest of the internet as Game Buddy, sometimes with a 123.
And you can find me also on Blue Sky and various other socials, but one less now, thank goodness. At Falero, that's Faulero.
I love that jingle. I almost forgot to say it, honestly.
Oh, he doesn't love it anymore.
No, I love it. I promise, please.
Sometimes after a while, you just don't say it anymore. You feel like they know.
You can find me on the socials as Rock the Jake, and you can find me on twitch.tv as Mr. Rock the Jake.
And you can find me on the various socials, or more specific socials, at Cyberlink420.
A special thanks, as always, to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp, and it will be out by the time this episode airs, but she has a new album coming out that you should go listen to and buy and give her lots of tips and love, because we love Amy and we love that she still allows her music to be associated with our goofy asses. So thank you, Amy.
And we will get her on the podcast one day.
Yes.
It is inevitable.
Share the show, subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That stuff does help get the show out there. So thank you again for when you do that. Now, if you haven't guessed by now, and I think our listeners are smart enough to have done so, we are talking about Shadow Generations next episode. It ended up being such a substantial addition.
It's a second game
to Sonic Generations that it deserves its own 3-hour plus episode, no promises, to talk about. And look, not to spoil anything, I'm interested in hearing everyone's perspectives on this, because I'm sorry, I'm talking about you, Falero. I want you to not feel like you have to spare anyone's feelings. I want your honest opinions on this.
Oh, so come on. I'm a British old Sonic fan. Have I ever done that? Listen, when you talk about everyone's opinions, when it comes down to it, almost everyone's opinions has been, this game rules. I have complicated opinions about it, and we will get to it next time as we continue. Generations January. Hey. Generations.
Genuary.
January in the Hill is Always Greener podcast, and we open up about a very edgy boy and his very edgy game.
The edgiest.
Yes.
I look forward to our 3-hour discussion of Gerald's Journal and 15 about the game itself.
Yes. And another at least hour 45 on Dark Beginnings.
Oh, yeah.
But until then, true believers, I am Game Buddy.
I'm Falero.
I'm Rock the Jake.
I'm Cyberlink, and do you see this sorry excuse for a sandwich? I'm very particular.
Man. They should have had that in Generations in 4K.
Sandwich Generations.
Maybe next time. This has been The Hill is Always Greener, and we'll see you on the other side of time and space.
On the other side of this remaster for the other half.
On the other side of the
that
X.
was much better. I'm going to pretend I said that. Thank you.